That's actually something that you learn.
Saving America one mind at a time. This is Smyth Radio. And now, your hosts, Carrie and Brian Smyth.
Look, boys, I ain't much of a hand at making speeches. But I got a pretty fair idea that something doggone important's going on back there. Now, I got a fair idea of the kind of personal emotions that some of you fellas may be thinking. Heck, I reckon you wouldn't even be human beings if you didn't have some pretty strong personal feelings about nuclear combat. I want you to remember one thing. The folks back home is counting on you, and by golly, we ain't about to let them down. Tell you something else. If this thing turns out to be half as important as I figure it just might be, I'd say that you're all in line for some important promotions and personal citations when this thing's over with. That goes for every last one of you, regardless of your race, color, or your creed. Let's get this thing on the hump. We got some flying to do.
It's what the American people believe. And poll after poll makes it very clear that the American people do not believe that we throw millions of people off health insurance. And let us be clear, Andrea, and this is not trying to be overly dramatic, thousands of people will die. I mean, if you don't have any health insurance and you have a chronic disease and you can't afford your prescription drugs, you know what? You will die. You'll become much sicker.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smyth Radio. Your host, Brian Smyth, and
Carrie Smith.
Giving you the breaking news of last week, wrapping it all up, telling you what you missed, well, letting you know what you missed, telling you about the things that the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear about, all the little details that we hear on Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all. If you want to be a part of the show, you can go live. Actually, you can be live messaging part of the show at smithradio.info. It'll take you directly to the Spreaker page, and you'll see the button where it says live and the title of today's show, Bernie Sanders, you die, Trump winning nationwide. And there's much pride today in many parades across America. Much pride.
Did you see Milo had a video? He came out with a video on YouTube that was kind of a get-together for all of his gay friends, like a gay pride event, but it was called Coming Out Conservative.
Sweet!
And it was in New York City, and all these New York gay New Yorkers who are conservative were talking about how it's more dangerous to be conservative than gay in New York City.
Yeah, dude. You could die. There was a video that they put up on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter as well, because we always post breaking stuff, or we'll retweet something either from Jack Posobiec, Laura Loomer, Mark Dice. I mean, really important things. We'll retweet them out as well.
All the real news people.
All the real news stuff.
Yeah, real news people.
Mike Cernovich, and as well as some of the things that we find across the net, and we'll comment on them. You can follow us at Smyth Radio, SMYTH Radio, and then my handle on Twitter at Brian P as in Paul Smith, SMYTH. Want to be a part of the show? You got something to say? You want to call in? We got a call-in hotline, the user-friendly hotline, 513-888-1538. Hit the like button, share it, retweet it, Facebook it. We're on YouTube at Smyth Radio. There's literally not a media outlet we have not signed us up for, did something, and we've got something breaking, folks.
Really?
Kind of a couple weeks old, but it's brand new for us.
Breaking all week.
It's brand new for us. We have a Patreon account.
Oh, yeah, right.
YouTube doesn't like the fact that I played that intro. They don't like the fact that Carrie played last week a clip from Friday where the dad was talking to LL Cool J.
Huh?
Chris, talking about the gun. Use your fists. This is what
that
we
was
did.
LL Cool J. That's Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. So anyways,
Ice Cube.
YouTube did not like, they knew that you put that in there and they did not like it, so we are not allowed to monetize that.
Really?
That entire show.
Really?
Is illegal. They'll allow it to be
They
up.
discovered us.
And they'll monetize it and then pay somebody else.
Well, at least somebody. At least YouTube's not just pocketing all that money.
Well, who knows? It could be a shell corporation.
Probably.
So we have a Patreon account. Go to patreon.com/Smyth Radio. We've been doing this is our 4th year now.
I have a live scope on right now. And if you can actually listen to our whole 3-hour show on smythradio.info. Smythradio.info. And that's spelled SMYTH. You should know that because if you're watching this scope, you know that it's at Smyth Radio with a Y. So you could watch. Our show is on every single Sunday from 5 to 8, and we go on and basically talk about all the news, all the political news, and sometimes some pop culture news throughout the course of the week. And so I definitely invite you to come and watch that, or actually listen to it. It's a radio show. So smythradio.info. And you can also listen to our past episodes through, I guess it's like a podcast, right? For the most part.
Correct.
And you can download those, so you can even listen to them offline in your vehicle, or just listen to it when you're away from the Wi-Fi without having to use up data, which is great.
Right. And I've created a short link on iHeartRadio. You go to iHeart.smythradio.com. That'll take you directly to the iHeart page. Or if you're on iHeart on your app, you might have to search Smyth Space Radio. It's goofy. It is all one word for us in our title, but on iHeartRadio, I think they split it into 2 words. Anyways, you can definitely get us there. And like you said, I know a lot of listeners say that they'll listen to us throughout the week on the way to work, listen to us throughout the week, whenever they get a chance. And obviously, when you're listening, tag us on Twitter or tag us on Facebook, whatever it be, and we'll like and reshare as well. Cool.
All right. So what's happened this week?
Oh, not much. It's just a little bit.
You died. This is barbaric.
A little bit of that, and she's still around.
This is painful. Yeah. This really and truly hurts.
I don't have sound bites or anything on Georgia 6. Okay. However, I'd like to kind of recap that real quick. Vanessa, who's on the message board, absolutely, I've been thinking about you all week.
Really?
Yes, I have. Because she, a couple of times, has come out and said there's so much negative stuff against Trump. Are we really winning? What's really going on? You hear so many negative things. I think we're going in the wrong way. So my whole response to that was, let me find as much positive information and affirm to you that the Trump movement is full steam ahead. That America is getting back on track as best as it possibly can. I mean, in a perfect world, you just rip the Band-Aid off and rewrite everything. That doesn't work when you got Paul Ryan as Speaker of the House. Right. You actually have to use a scalpel and cut pieces out.
Well, one of our followers, who's probably on the message board, if not now, will be soon, talks about how you cannot just repeal Obamacare, just totally, and say, all right, now that it's repealed, let's start working on something. That it just won't work. And Bill Mitchell actually gave a great analogy. I think it was him. It was either him or Brendan Dilley, who said that it's very similar to immigration, where you can't just say, all right, now that we're not going to allow illegal immigrants after 20, 30 years of allowing them, 40 years possibly, we're going to go door to door and bang on the door and ask for your papers. And if you don't have them, you're going to get in the paddy wagon. We're going to drive that thing across the border and dump you off like a dump truck.
Well, that's what the politicians in California would like them to believe.
Well, they're going to try to trick you into believing that, but here's the reality is they know that that's just not practical. The same way, everybody knows it's obvious that that's not practical. Totally obvious, right? But when you start to say that you can't repeal Obamacare all in one fell swoop, one stroke of the pen, and it's poof, gone. They just don't see that. And I don't fault them for not seeing that. I have trouble understanding that. It has to be explained to me that you can't just do that by using the immigration analogy. And the reason why is that Obamacare set up this giant infrastructure. It's the way that healthcare gets done. And has been for the past 6 years now, for the most part?
Yeah.
That being said, if you try to just remove it by saying it no longer exists, then you're going to have some problems where there's going to be all kinds of problems. And so that's why we have this temporary measure that's going through the Senate. Does it have problems? Yes. If you listen to Glenn Beck and Mark Levin, they will have walked through step by step all the big problems with what the Senate has come out with. There were problems with what the House came out with. But what you find when you start to think about it more dynamically is that this is the first step that must happen. And if you're more of a practical thinker, then you could at least agree that what they're proposing, assuming that they agree, pass it, and it goes into law, moves the needle in our direction. Sure. Is it Obamacare light? You can make the argument. I've heard people make the argument. Rand Paul comes out and says, this is nothing more than Obamacare light. And when he explains why, I can't disagree with anything that he's saying.
No, I can't.
But meanwhile, we have Obamacare, which, by the way, Obamacare means people like me are not insured. You're not insured if you're a guy like me, in my circumstance, living under Obamacare.
Or your father, spanning the gap from 62 to 65. And I apologize for those of you who are at the retired age collecting Medicare. For the poor people, it's
Medicaid,
because the aid is in it. However, Carrie and I had a brainstorm the other day, and we actually kind of think they're one and the same for the most part.
They're the same.
I know you're going to hate me for saying that.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of Republicans and even conservatives, even far-right capitalist conservatives, that will concede that a certain amount of socialism is required in civilization. And my argument is that socialism should occur privately through churches.
Which it used to.
Right? Yeah, it used to be that way. There's soup kitchens. Those soup kitchens aren't government run. Those are church run. And that kind of stuff. So you might make the argument, well, what about an atheist? Well, by the way, an atheist would actually be allowed into a church.
No, correct. They welcome him all the time.
And yeah, but they're going to indoctrinate them. Yeah, they're going to fill their head full of pro-God propaganda, right?
Anti-abortion stuff.
Oh, that's so wrong.
Right, because we need to kill.
By the way, you don't have to believe in God to believe that killing an innocent human being is wrong.
Right, and real quick, let me dispel this notion. I've mentioned this. I've talked to other folks before, and they're like, "Oh, the church, stiff, stuffy, everybody, suit and tie, hypocrites. You say one thing, you do another," and it may have been your perception back in the day, because I've been going to church since I can remember, since I was a child. Yeah. And absolutely, back in the 80s and earlier, 3-piece suits. All men,
right.
3-piece suits.
Your Sunday best.
Yeah, and that's what it was called, your Sunday's best. The women, the beautiful gowns, the dresses, the purses that match, the shoes.
Right.
Me, at 7 years old, had a suit.
Yeah, I only wore suits on Easter Sunday.
Right. Well, things have changed, folks. Things have really, really changed, and a lot of churches are looking at that as alienation of certain people who just want to walk in, because their whole goal is, well, at least the church that we go to, their goal is to embrace the community and have a life-changing relationship with Christ.
Right.
In order to do that, you've got to be open-doored, open policy, pretty much like a laid-back environment that really is more welcoming than anything. The church that we go to, the pastor will show up in an Izog T-shirt, like a what do they call that? Like a 3-button shirt, jeans, shoes,
polo.
Yeah, polo. And I bring this up because a couple of weeks ago there was a homeless guy. I mean, really super homeless. When I say super homeless, like the shoe looked like an alligator with the bottom falling off of it.
Ooh, yeah.
really dirty, stinky, just whatever, walked right up in the middle of church during service and sat down across the aisle from me. And I'd never seen the guy before. So after service, I shook his hand and said, "Hey, how's things going? What's going on?" Apparently, he'd been to the service before. Everybody was welcoming. Nobody judged him. They actually found a way to get him help. He said he didn't have an ID and you can't go to a homeless shelter without one. They found a shelter. They found a place. They helped him out. They got him where he was going. He said he was hungry. Somebody went to the drive-thru at Burger King. They were going to go to Chick-fil-A, but, they're closed on Sunday.
Okay. Because you can't make your workers work on Sunday, the holy day.
No, you can't.
Okay.
So they went through Burger King, got the double Baconator, whatever it be. Oh, that's Wendy's. Sorry, Wendy's. It got him something to eat and hooked him up and sent him on his way. That's what churches did back in the day. Why do you think all these hospitals have saints' names to them?
They're probably Catholic hospitals.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And
you see it a lot in Cincinnati where education, big formal education, happened through your local church. So, that started many years ago, many decades ago, actually. And, locally you'd have a little schoolhouse or something like that. You'd have somebody who was able, some neighbor, one of the farm housewives or something would be able to take all the children in during the day, and they had a little schoolhouse.
Right.
That wasn't a government thing. And then you also had your Catholic churches that would have the Catholic schools, and then you had the Catholic hospitals, which were the big thing. At least that's the way it is here in Cincinnati. And to this day, it's still like that. We still have, but we also, now they're competing against the government schools, which of course we know is just communist indoctrination, just FYI.
Right, absolutely. So we've got Bernie Sanders.
Oh, is he on the line?
He's no, he's not on the. No, but we have Bernie Sanders going nuts this week, talking about. If you heard that first sound clip that we played in the opening, this is Bernie Sanders all right on the heels of the GOP senators, congressmen being shot at, attempted murder, list of Republicans to be murdered by a Bernie supporter. And everybody, no. This isn't us. This isn't the left. No. It is you. It is the left. And right after that, you got Bernie.
You die. This is barbaric.
Going nuts.
He said, you die?
He said.
Is that out of context?
You die.
No, that is it. This is the, he did a Facebook Live event this week with Pocahontas. What's her face? She's part Indian.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
She's not part Indian. She's part liar.
Oh, there you go. So this is, her and Sanders got together to do a live Facebook event, and this is 27 seconds, this is what Sanders, this is how he's coming off the heels of supporters literally going berserk. They're losing their mind.
When I talk about a political revolution, this is what I'm talking about. We got to stand up and fight back. We have got to be involved in the political process in a way that we have never been before, because what is happening now in Washington is unprecedented. So you have got to, Mary, act in an unprecedented way. Think big. Get involved in every way that you can. So, Mary, stand up and fight back in every way that you can.
That was based on a woman asking a question, what do I do to help the cause? Fight back in every single way that you can. Now we've got MSNBC. This is all the bad. I'm just throwing out the bad news right now. We're going to get to the good news. There's a lot of good news about Trump. There's a lot of good news about America, things that are coming down the pipe. But we've got to dispel the fake news. And this is the reason why Carrie and I do Smyth Radio. This is the absolute God's reason why we do it, is because there's so much fake news out there that we felt there was no real outlet to combat that.
Yeah, it's part of it. There's a lot of reasons that all came together. It was a combination of, we had Barack Obama as president, and he was doing some things that I thought were very, very unconstitutional and had the potential to just completely, when he said fundamentally transform America, I mean, It kind of looked like, based on some of the stuff that I was seeing in his executive orders, that it could end up abolishing a lot of what we see in the basic parts of our Constitution. That's number one. But number two, I started to realize, wow, people like Rush Limbaugh are getting pretty old.
Yeah, we did have this conversation.
Yeah. And I was getting worried that he was the only voice of truth and reason and common sense. And this was before Sean Hannity really took a big, like he took the rest of the red pills. Like he was conservative and all that kind of stuff, but I felt like he was a little bit more establishment type. That you got to understand, Sean Hannity has come a long way.
Yes.
He was not this establishment. I felt like he was just barely to the right of somebody like Bill O'Reilly.
Back in 04 and 05, I'd listened to his radio show.
Yeah.
And after that Terry Schiavo thing where she was in a coma for 10, 15 years.
Well, he was
and the husband wanted to kill her, pull the trigger
on that.
Okay, after that Terry Schiavo that he talked about for a week straight, I unplugged him. I didn't listen to him all up until... Dude, I didn't listen to him for 10 years.
Wow.
I walked away
so
from
you were
Hannity.
upset because there's people that listen to us that would probably have been totally on board with his message on the Terry Schiavo thing.
Yeah, but there's certain battles that you got to fight, and
that seemed very not the one.
It was a battle you needed to walk away from. But I digress. So we wanted to put this out. We wanted to get this out there at least, and at one point in time to have a record for our kids to be able to look back on and see.
Yeah, because we would have these discussions on the phone. This show that you're listening to right now was our phone conversation for probably about 3 years. And it got to the point where we were like, wow, we should record this. I just felt like it just needed to be recorded because there were some things in it that I thought were great. That once we were done with the phone conversation, they were gone forever. I couldn't even recollect the exact details of what we may have said. I just remember that it was groundbreaking stuff. It just was lost to the ether.
Right.
And I didn't like that.
No.
Because it would never be recaptured, ever.
When you're having a 5-hour conversation, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, there might be like 5 or 6 minutes.
Just
kidding. We had some good stuff.
So here's the point. The point is we live in a capitalist society. We live in a set up and built to where the government is subordinate to the citizens, not the other way around, as in England, where you're subject to the king and queen, to the government. Bernie Sanders is a full-blown, I know people say, oh, he's a full-blown socialist. No, and we've stated this on the show before, and we'll keep going over it again. Socialism is the Greyhound bus, if you will, to Commie Town.
Yeah, the communism is the destination. That is the final destination.
Wow.
And socialism, people are like, oh, it's the same thing, or they're totally different. Well, they are different, and but they're married. You know, they're not two separate things.
Right.
But they're almost apples and oranges. You can't really say, well, I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist. Well, if you're a socialist, you're really a communist.
Correct.
You're just trying to avoid being called communist, which, by the way, I noticed all these years after McCarthy that people are finally starting to feel comfortable saying, oh, no, I'm a communist. They're finally starting to feel comfortable. For a long, long, long time, saying that you were a communist was such a dirty word. Or calling somebody a communist was such a dirty word.
Right, you might as well call them a
pedophile,
yeah,
or a Nazi or something like that, which is kind of funny because Nazi was a political party and communist is a political party, right?
Right.
So in a way, it's kind of the same way, but the problem with Nazi is that it just so happened that they all kind of rallied around this idea. They all seem to collectively embrace the idea of exterminating an entire religion for the most part. I don't want to call Jews a race because that's just not – I don't think that's cool. There's a lot of people who don't look like what you see drawings of, you know, the racist drawings of a stereotypical Jew. But there's Jewish people that don't satisfy that racial stereotype at all. because it's a religion.
Right.
It's the same thing with like Mexican, which is by the way, Mexico is a nation, not a race. Right. Or Puerto Rican, or that guy, he looks Puerto Rican. Well, I seen a guy. I was in the Marine Corps with a guy who was Puerto Rican. He would say, I'm a New Yorker because he was from like the Bronx or something like that. And when he would go to Mexico, because we were stationed right on the Mexican border, they had no idea that he spoke fluent Spanish because he looked like a white guy.
Right.
He actually looked just like Flea from... He did. He looked just like
Red Hot Chili Peppers?
He even had the gap in his teeth. He looked just like Flea. His name is Anthony Rodriguez, so if you're listening out there.
Hey, Anthony, little shout out, buddy.
Yeah, a little shout out. But he would have Mexicans speaking Spanish near him and about him, not knowing that he could understand every word, even the slang and everything. And then he would play off like he couldn't understand them. And then he would reveal at just the right moment. And it caused fights, because
it's hysterical.
Like, oh, they got to square up now, But anyway, so the point is you got to get these labels correct. Jew is a religion. If you're a Jew, that means you follow the Jewish religion. If your parents were Jewish and you're not, I mean, what are you saying here?
You're Jewish. Jew.
Well, you're saying that it's a race now.
It is a culture for sure.
Well, my point is, if you're
you can convert?
Could you be a Jewish Muslim?
Negative, Ghost Rider. Islam would not allow that.
What if both your parents were Jewish, and then you were born to two Jews, and you then became a Muslim?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be Jewish.
Some
anymore.
would say, well, by race you're Jewish, but by religion you're Muslim. I don't like to get into all that crap. To me, Judaism is a religion. If you're a Jew, that you're telling me that you do the synagogue and all that stuff.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And if you're Mexican, it's not because you're brown. It's because you're from Mexico.
Right.
So anyway,
my father-in-law from Guadalajara. Jalisco, Mexico. Mm-hmm. White hair, blue eyes.
Wow,
looks German.
Okay,
probably is German.
But you're saying he's a Mexican national.
He was born in Guadalajara.
Okay,
in Mexico.
So he did Mexico recognize him as a Mexican citizen?
Oh yeah.
So he's Mexican.
Yeah, now he's American citizen.
Right. There you go.
Good time. So, roundabout way, I don't know where we got with that. We were talking about communism, capitalism, the difference between the two. Bernie Sanders, healthcare.
Communism and capitalism.
I saw people on Twitter with healthcare. How can you be the richest country in the nation and you don't even offer basic healthcare for your people? The healthcare is not a right. It's not a right to have health care.
I can describe why real quick.
Go ahead, Rhodey. Yeah.
All right, so here's why health care is not a right. Health care is a service that is performed by people who are employed by, it could be a doctor, or it can be employed by a hospital, or it could be somebody who's self-employed. Maybe you have a family practice. You're a doctor, and you bought or rented a place to practice your medicine.
Right.
All right. You're engaging in labor.
Right.
You're being paid for your labor.
Okay, so because he's a doctor in practicing his skill,
mm-hmm.
it would be equal to that. Of a BMW dealer working on your car. He's providing a service for you.
Right. So that worker is doing labor to your car, whatever. And here's the thing: you should always give compensation to somebody who is giving you their labor. If not, he's obviously donating his time. But if you force him, whether it's a person who forces you to do labor for nothing, or if the government forces you to do labor for nothing, that's called slavery.
Yeah, slavery.
And so if you believe that healthcare is a right, you believe that people should work for nothing because somebody walks up and says, I am in need of health care. Let's say I broke my arm, broke my leg, or I have a cut. I need, we had somebody yesterday that needed stitches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely needed stitches.
Now, for you to go up and say, I need you to work on me because I need health care, and health care is my right. I am entitled to health care because it's my right to get it. You are now enslaving that person. Because what do you say? If he says no, you could say, well, now you are violating my civil rights, right? Or my natural rights, because I have a natural or civil right to your labor.
Right.
It's slavery. It's slavery.
So when people say you have a right to health care, literally they are spewing communist ideologies.
Or pro-slavery ideology. I don't know. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work. Look at all the rights that we do have. None of our rights require slavery out of anybody. And if it does, then you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. And no, I'm not paying Ice Cube for that. That's his line. We're probably going to get banned from YouTube now.
Yeah, we're going to get banned for YouTube from actually talking about Ice Cube now.
I guess. Anyway, that sucks. I can't believe that little clip. By the way, that clip we played last week. I played from YouTube, from a channel it hasn't been removed. It's not like I played it from Ice Cube's channel or from Friday's official, whoever owns the rights to Friday, the movie. It wasn't their channel. So it's kind of funny.
Right.
That YouTube has demonetized a video that we played a clip from YouTube. I'm assuming that's demonetized too.
And we talked about that clip. So technically, we're allowed to use that clip.
Oh, fair use. Absolutely.
But here's the thing.
Fair use.
The more that I click the button to dispute, the more dangerous we come to a line. They don't like the fact that you dispute things.
They like to
you can do it.
Ban happy. Trigger happy on the ban.
They get trigger happy. So here's the communist Bernie Sanders, who is actually this week has distanced himself from the Democrat Party.
Okay.
Because
he's a communist?
He thinks they're gone off the rails.
Because they're not communist enough.
Probably.
He's a large reason why the violence happened, why the attempted assassination on Steve Scalise happened.
Correct. So here's Bernie Sanders with Anderson 360. Anderson Cooper and him are going back and forth and talking about this healthcare debacle, this issue. The question that Cooper puts to Sanders is, you call this the most harmful piece of legislation in your lifetime. That's extraordinary kind of statement there. What makes it rise to that level?
Well, Anderson, you're right. It is an extraordinary statement because this is an extraordinary piece of legislation. If you throw 23 million people off of health insurance,
which is a lie.
If you cut Medicaid by over $800 billion,
it's probably
there is
a lie.
no question but that thousands of Americans will die. If you are sick, if you have a chronic illness and you can't get the kind of care you need, you die. Or maybe you will just suffer year after year after year. And the purpose of this whole legislation of raising premiums for older workers, of defunding Planned Parenthood, denying 2.5 million women the choice of doctors. You know what the whole purpose is? It's to provide $500 billion in tax breaks for the top 2%, for the insurance companies, for the drug companies, and other major corporations. This is barbaric. Frankly, this is what oligarchy is all about.
What?
It's the wealthy and powerful saying, we need even more tax breaks, despite the fact they're doing phenomenally well. And if it means people in America dying, if it means throwing 23 million people off of health insurance, if it means telling a 63-year-old worker that his premiums are going to soar, hey, that's not our problem. The only thing we have to worry about is getting even richer. We're just billionaires now. We need even more tax rates. This is barbaric.
What the
and
Republicans
it is the worst piece of legislation.
What the
All right, hold on a second.
He got a lot to say there. He got a lot to say.
All right, so you heard what Bernie Sanders just said. So let me just tell you a little story, and Brian could totally back me up on this. For those of you listening who are baby boomers or Generation Xers, you would totally understand this. You may have forgotten it. That's why we're going to talk about it. But if you're a millennial or younger, this may come as a surprise to you. We did not have old people dying in the street growing up at all.
No,
it did not happen.
I don't remember even hearing about it.
We didn't have people complaining about not being able to get health care because they're old and that their health care was too expensive. Something happened between then and now that's caused this debacle. And honestly, I think a lot of it is just totally made up. I think what you're hearing is lies coming from people like Bernie Sanders saying that this is barbaric because you're going to make people spend so much that they can't afford it and all this kind of stuff. I do remember my grandmother who died in 2009, and in her last 4 years of life, maybe, her last 4 years of life was really tough on her. She was overweight and she had all these chronic problems. But, you know, when you're in your 80s, that kind of stuff happens. You're going to have chronic issues. You're going to be the ambulance would arrive at her house way more frequently than we wanted. She didn't want to go to a nursing home, which is fine, whatever. When we were kids, very few people ended up in a nursing home. Very few people. Usually, if you lived really, really old, you would end up moving in with a kid, which at that time, like my great-grandma died at 91. She moved in with my grandmother, which was her kid, and she was in her 60s.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just the way it went down back then, which was fine. Everything worked out. But so what's changed? The big change is that now healthcare costs are out of control. That's what's changed. So what's caused the healthcare costs to be so out of control? It's all this socialism and government intervention. We didn't have that much of that back then. We had family doctors. We had a lot less regulations. We had a lot, you know, people think that drugs, the whole thing about drugs being the cure-all to everything, I think has gotten out of control. It started back when they found the cure, when they found penicillin and they found the cure to polio. It was like, oh my gosh, we can cure all diseases from here on out. And doctors got way too much credit. Hospitals, healthcare became this thing that was required to stay alive. Fast forward many, many years later, and now you have all these companies willing to spend $2.5. Did you know it's $2.5 billion with a B, $billion to bring a drug to market?
Wow.
So if you decide, hey, I want to work on this drug and see if it'll cure something, and then get it in a bottle and cap it up and start selling it to pharmacies to resell to people. The journey from coming up with the idea to actually having it legally for sale on the open market, by open market, it's technically totally closed, which is the pharmaceutical, you know.
Right. No, it's closed market.
Average of $2.5 billion. So obviously there's a lot of skimming. There's a lot of regulations, which, by the way, lobbyists lobby for that kind of stuff. And $2.5 billion later, you have a drug on the market. So you can imagine the cost to the people who are going to buy this drug to recoup the $2.5 billion. In a capitalist society, these companies have to recoup that money. So what do? They charge you thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get these drugs. That's how much they charge for the drugs in order to recoup that cost. And they can do it because of health insurance will pay for it. And then they pass that to everybody using premiums. And so all that stuff is red tape that needs to be hacked away at. And I think that's the idea that Trump has. The problem is that giant Leviathan that I just described is going to take time to hack away at. The Conservative Treehouse came out with an article. I don't know. I think you read it because you liked it on Twitter. it was I retweeted it. Somebody tweeted it to me. I read it and retweeted that it was brilliant. Do you remember that tweet?
Yeah.
This is a brilliant article.
Right.
So somebody at Conservative Treehouse, I don't know if it's Sundance or not, wrote an article about how they can solve health care by, instead of repealing and replacing health care, they could do it the same way they fixed the housing crisis back in the 2000s with, instead of replacing the financial market, they just build a new one parallel to the old corrupt one and build it up.
Right.
So he believes that I don't think that goes live, by the way. For those of you listening that are wondering what I'm talking about, kind of got sidetracked. There's a sound effect that happens on the computer.
On my computer.
Yeah. I don't think that goes through live. Okay. If it does, let them know if you just heard something funny or weird, let them know in the what do they call it? Chat room?
The message board.
Okay, so Sundance is talking. I don't know if it's Sundance, but somebody on Conservative Treehouse. What is it? What is the name of that website? Conservative Treehouse. It's thelastrefuge.com.
Yeah, lastrefuge.com.
Yeah, lastrefuge.com. Wrote an article saying that what this Senate bill does, or is attempting to do, is to create a parallel healthcare thing that will go parallel with existing Obamacare. And when Obamacare implodes, which it obviously will because it was designed to, people can seamlessly transfer over to this new parallel market. If that's true, and if that's what they did with and I didn't know that, if they did do that with the healthcare or the housing crisis, it was actually the financial crisis with the financial institutions all imploding back in 2008, causing the big Great Recession in 2009.
Right.
And if that's how they fix it, and if this is what he's doing to solve the healthcare debacle, that's just brilliant. Because that way you're bypassing all the lobbyists, all the corruption. You're instead of dealing with the corrupt politicians and dealing with the corrupt lobbyists and dealing with the corruption that's in all the hospitals and crony socialism, just create a separate industry that's parallel with the current corrupt one, and then say, all right, y'all are on your own. Good luck with that. And then people start coming over to the parallel industry.
It will work if it's something that, if it's what they want, which is obviously what we're screaming for, and obviously what Trump is attempting to do. We're attempting to do this parallel system. If you set it up just like the movie, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, and it should be correct. Now, I guess the negatives on it, the Rand Paul's and Ted Cruz's, and I think it started with 3. They got the 4th one on. At first, they needed 4 in order to. Rand Paul said this on Sean Hannity's show. He said, "Look, I have problems with it. I would vote no right now on the Senate bill that they're trying to pass for health care, but me alone, it's just." Nobody's going to listen to me because my vote doesn't count.
No, but here's the thing. They need all Republicans on board. If they don't, they're going to have to rely on some Democrats. That's not going to work.
Well, initially he said they don't need me alone.
Okay.
They need it. It's not all hands. They need everybody minus like 3.
Okay, here's my problem with Rand Paul, though. Rand Paul, please, if you're listening now, if you do nothing, it's as if those people that say, I can't decide between Trump and Hillary, I'm just not going to vote. Dude, you're going to hurt the situation. You're going to hurt the cause. And de facto, it will default Obamacare stays. You've got to take a move. One step at a time. A journey of 10,000 miles begins with one step. Dude.
You see that
Rand
guy?
Paul, you need to take a step.
That guy in the Guinness Book of World Records way back in the day in the 80s, he ate a whole maple tree.
Yes.
The entire tree. And I was like, what, all the leaves? No. The branches, the trunk. He ate the whole maple tree. How did he do that? One bite at a time.
One bite at
God, you could do it. It's been proven. Guinness Book of World Records proved you could eat a whole maple tree.
Right. So Rand Paul, we need
to eat the tree, dude.
Eat the tree. Yeah, we got to start moving forward. And once you start getting into it, and obviously I've got some stuff on Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan is his numbers and his support is waning majorly. But
should be.
But this whole changing of the system is so messed up and is so convoluted and complicated. It's got to be one bite at a time. One of the folks that worked for Ronald Reagan made a comment on Handel's show, said, Reagan used to say this all the time in the White House to all of us every day. All the time he would say, give me a half a loaf and I'll get the other half for you. And he would actually wind up to get another half and then some.
I don't need a whole loaf.
I don't need the whole thing. Just give me half and I'll go get the other half for you. So here's the rest of that soundbite. Anderson Cooper asks Bernie Sanders another question. Here's the other piece of the puzzle that Bernie's trying to put together in his crazed, insane mind.
Are saying, and what the president has said as well, is that Obamacare is dead, that it's collapsing under its own weight. I mean, all these expressions that they've been using, and that this...
Okay, he said all the expressions that the GOP have been using, Obamacare is collapsing under its own weight. The expressions that those guys are using, it might be a metaphor, or it's not an. Is
he lying?
The thing is it is falling apart. Not only that,
right.
but we've had multiple huge insurance companies pulling out of the ACH, the Affordable Health Care Act. They are pulling out of it left and right.
There's states who don't even have an option at all, not a single solitary option for a insurance company in their state under the ACHA. What is it? Affordable Health Care Act. Obamacare.
Right.
Basically, something has to be done, and this will actually help more people.
But Anderson, if you talk to, and these are not my best friends, but if you talk to the insurance industry, what they will tell you is that Trump and the Republican leadership are sabotaging the Affordable Care Act by not putting funding into cost sharing or destabilizing that situation, and also not enforcing the individual mandate. So money is not coming in. The insurance companies are totally unsure about the future, and they're raising rates. But let me say this. Nobody denies that the Affordable Care Act has problems. Nobody denies that premiums are too high, that deductibles and co-payments are too high. And by the way, that is why in the near future, will be introducing legislation called Medicare for All.
Oh, jeez.
Guaranteeing health care to every man, woman, and child, and doing what every other major country on earth is doing.
He's a communist.
Short term, we have got to improve the Affordable Care Act. You don't improve the Affordable Care Act by throwing 23 million people off of insurance, including children. Children with disabilities. Kids who are now getting help in school are going to lose that. What kind of country do the Republican leadership think we are?
This guy's such a
when
demagogue.
they're attempting to bring about this type of legislation beyond my comprehension.
That's called demagoguery. What about the children? Oh my gosh, he's so shameless. The lying left, they're so shameless. So all these people supposedly losing their health care, I think that these are people that didn't have health care, didn't want health care, and were forced to do it by the point of a gun for the most part, with the threat of tax evasion for the most part. If you didn't get health care, there's the individual mandate is what they called it.
Right.
They would send you a bill for $3,000, $10,000, $15,000 in your tax return. They would literally. The only reason they initially said, you owe the $3,000 penalty for not signing up for Obamacare, because I couldn't afford it, by the way. But so I was like, well, I guess we're filing for bankruptcy. But luckily, I was able to get exempt from that because I'm a veteran.
Well,
luckily.
And Trump, as soon as Trump was elected, he said, we are not enforcing that.
No, this was before Trump was elected.
I know. But after Trump's election, this year come round, that's what Sanders is bitching about right now.
Right.
Is this last tax season that we just filed for. We filed for 2016 back in March. Trump said filing in March of 2017 for 2016, we will not enforce any penalties.
Right. And let me tell you something. Sanders said that Trump is trying to sabotage the Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, by not enforcing the individual mandate. Well, by enforcing the individual mandate, by coming out with Obamacare, which has that, you're sabotaging the American people. You are being a shill for the healthcare industry at the expense of the American citizen.
Right.
That's the kind of language that we should be using against these communists. And it's not name-calling to call him a communist. He said, I am working on a Medicaid for all. We're all going to put you on this DMV style of health care.
He screams for single payer.
That means you're going to get in line and you're going to do the DMV style health care. Thank you, Comrade Sanders. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Terrible. Oh my gosh. Communism doesn't work. Hey, do you have an update on Venezuela this week?
And that's a sad one, too. But yeah, there's where your communism goes. So Anderson Cooper had Bernie Death and Destruction on for 12 and a half minutes. Two segments. He told Bernie mid-stroke. He said, Bernie, cool the jets, mid-stroke. We got to go to commercial. We're coming back.
I got to tell you about the health care.
So I wrapped up.
Children.
Every once in a while, I have a moment, and I'm able to get to doing this type of stuff, but I've got a 57-second soundbite that wraps up the 12 and a half minutes of him and Anderson chit-chatting together. This is Bernie's, this is the Cliff Notes.
Okay.
This is the Cliff Notes for Anderson Cooper 360 interviewing and lovingly on the communist Bernie Sanders.
But that thousands of Americans will die. You die. Or maybe you will just suffer year after year after year. This is barbaric. People in America dying. This is barbaric. Trump and the Republican leadership are sabotaging the Affordable Care Act. The insurance companies are totally unsure. Children with disabilities, beyond my comprehension. I am going to do everything I can, and I know there are people all over this country who are standing up and are fighting back, and then tell disabled kids or people who are in nursing homes today because of Medicaid that we're going to punish them. This is the most anti-working class legislation that I have ever seen. This devastating cuts to Medicaid. I'm in a lot of pain. My kid can't afford to go to college. I'm making $10 an hour. What are you going to do for me? Can't get it all just because you're a billionaire.
Just like hugging a suicide bomber. He blows you up in the process with him.
Well, that's a good point.
Whoa! What are you going to do for me? Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Yes.
He definitely missed that one.
Oh, so
his fellow Democrat.
So he goes off the rails. Sanders goes off the rails and screaming for everything communist that could possibly be communist, in the sense that minimum wage. He wants minimum wage to be $15 an hour.
That's
why don't we make it $50 an hour and make everybody rich?
That's Sean Hannity's argument.
Where's the end?
Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh said, well, can we make it $100 an hour? As soon as you get up to about $100 per hour, that's when all the communists say, well, no, we don't need to give them that much. Well, why not? I mean, leftists need to understand that money is it's an idea, right? If you add 6 zeros behind every single piece of money we have, including how much we earn, it would be exactly the same.
It doesn't make never mind.
Right. Instead of spending $1 at the store for a candy bar, let's say it's $1 million. But instead of earning $15 an hour, I earn $15 million per hour. It's all the same. You're just adding zeros to everything. It doesn't make any difference at all. So they just don't understand how money works. So I understand, though, when you change zeros on certain things and not others, then you're actually robbing from people. So, for instance, if you pump the economy full of fake money, paper money, it's real money, but it's paper, and you got the printing presses on full blast, that's going to cause inflation because you have an excess amount of worthless money, and so everything starts to cost more. People have no choice but to start to make more. People on fixed income are being robbed.
Right.
You're literally robbing from the fixed income crowd because their income only goes up 3% by law per year. So everybody else, they're getting paid more, everything costs more, and then you got these fixed income people that are making $1,200 a month.
Now $1,200 buys you a gallon of milk.
Right.
Hello.
You're literally robbing from
Venezuela
people.
Calling.
That's
are
how
we reaching?
You can manipulate currency that way in order to rob from people. That's just the way. That's the way.
Well, and then when you got a situation in Zimbabwe a few years back, this during 0405, capitalistpig.com sent me a gift of a $1 trillion Zimbabwe bill.
Really?
They sent it to.
Was it real?
Yeah, it was a absolute real, and I'm sorry I didn't keep it. I don't know where it's at. It's got lost in the mix. But it was a $1 trillion Zimbabwe bill. And I was actually excited and fascinated. They sent this to us. Worth less than pennies. It literally cost him nothing. But it was what Zimbabwe had to do to stave off the inflation. The inflation got so high, just like in Venezuela, if you want to go grocery shopping and buy a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread, saying that it's actually in the store, you would truck a wheelbarrow of money down there to get it. Not saying that it cost $1 million, saying that money is so worthless.
Yeah.
That's how many you got to stack up on. And you folks know this too. When you see the price of something you bought, a loaf of bread at the store used to be a nickel and now it's $2.25. I mean, there's inflation and things are growing, but it's stable and it's steady. When overnight, if you're paying a nickel and the next day you show up and they want $2.25,
right?
Now we've got some major problems.
Well, supply and demand works no matter where you try it. It's a part of life, right? And so you got a place like Venezuela, who in a communist society, they dictate the price of things. So what they did is they decided we're going to say that milk is going to be sold for $1 a gallon. That's what it costs. That's what you're going to charge for milk, right? Well, all the producers of milk said, I guess we're not making milk anymore because we can only sell it for $1 a gallon.
Right.
So they stopped producing it. So all the shelves are empty. There's no milk anywhere.
So what is Mickey D's doing in Venezuela? Mickey D's, fast drive-through, fairly cheap food, right. Cheap on the cheap.
Okay.
We're Wendy's fans here.
I like Wendy's.
And so is Kekistan. He's been doing Wendy's memes.
Oh, because of the Wendy's. She left.
Oh no!
Not Wendy.
No,
not Wendy. But
the Twitter handle.
Yes, the woman, very young woman. She's like 22. She was in charge of the social media Twitter on the Wendy's at Wendy's, and she's the one that was behind all the awesome.
Dude, she was wicked.
Yeah, the Wendy's meme.
They got a Pepe the Frog with a Wendy's hair.
Oh my God! So she left.
Okay, so, and we're not getting off track. We're talking about Venezuela. We're talking communism. We're talking about the bus of socialism driving you to the town of communism. McDonald's. What happens in a country of Venezuela? It's completely fallen apart, and Big Macs now cost $20, $30, $40. Venezuela no longer has a McDonald's. McDonald's is no longer in Venezuela. So a capitalist idea put together to provide an incredible service to millions and millions of people all across the world cannot survive in Venezuela.
Okay.
Because the environment is so toxic.
And if you're listening or watching on Periscope, which, by the way, you don't get any of the sound bites or any of that when we're on Periscope. I just decided to do this just to try it once. I'm going to switch you off because I'm going to open up the other a different app. But I just wanted to have you guys. The reason I wrote this thing is because I want you guys to listen to us there, where you will be able to hear all of the sound bites. Smythradio.info, SMYTHRADIO.info. So cutting you off right now, but anyway, back to the show.
Top of the hour, you're listening to Smyth Radio with Brian Smith and Carrie Smith. Follow us on Twitter at Smyth Radio, at Brian P. Smith. Share, re-like, retweet. Our Twitter account's been doing very, very well, very healthy. Combined, the two of us combined in the teens of 15,000 plus followers.
Gosh, I'm getting really dangerously close to 10K. Getting close. I think. Oh, am I almost over? Whatever. Okay.
So, anyways, YouTube as well. If you got the YouTube app, which I do on the phone, YouTube's great. Like, reshare, and comment as well. There's been a lot of comments on the YouTube channel. That's really incredible. But you're listening to Smyth Radio, and we go live every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Smythradio.info. Go to the website, smythradio.com. There's a ton of information there, some great stuff, as well as live updates of all our social media accounts as well, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatnot. Kind of a hub of everything going on. And we are discussing wrapping up Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, the communist that he is, outspoken. People say, oh, he's an outspoken socialist. No. He is an outspoken communist. And the road to communism is laid down by socialism. Socialism is the bricks in the road that will get you to Commie Town. And I promised Vanessa that I would talk about positive things going on in the Trump world today. And here are the positive things going on right now. Donald Trump this week in Georgia 6. Donald Trump won Georgia 6.
Okay.
Donald Trump.
I'll take it.
Is now currently
he's the president of Georgia 6.
Georgia 6. What is funny is the lead up to Georgia 6 was a congressional district that Trump took the Republican that had the district, put him in his cabinet. So now there's a special runoff for that district. The woman that was running versus the Democrat guy that was running, who apparently didn't even live in the district, but the Democrats had to put somebody up, and the media got involved. The media, weeks running up, oh, this is the greatest ever. This is the comeback kid for the Democrats. This is what they need. And the day before Monday, I'm at work. I crack open the phone, listen to a little bit of Rush, and Rush says, it's falling apart, folks, as we talk right now. Mainstream media. Georgia 6 really isn't that important. Oh, I think maybe we emphasize too much on Georgia 6.
Well, follow the money, and that tells you how much interest they had in Georgia 06. What is up with Georgia? A lot of people may not remember this, but during the election day, November 8th, was it? Or 9th? 8th or 9th? They had all the tallies up. You go to any of the channels, the cable channels, and they had endless talk of who was ahead, what states were ahead, how many delegates, how many electoral college votes do each of them have, Clinton versus Trump. It just went on and on for many, many, many hours. But one thing I thought was really weird, the strangest thing on election night, nobody but me, yours truly, Carrie Smith, right here, has talked about, is what was going on with Georgia. Okay, so here's the background. On Georgia, Romney won Georgia in 2012 by, I think it was 9 points. Georgia is a southern state, and the southern states have been solidly red for a really long time. Okay, I don't have a very good explanation on the flip from blue to red, but that's neither here nor there. All these southern states have been red for a very long time, okay? And Georgia is definitely one of them. 2012, Romney wins it by like 9 points. So here we are, fast forward to 2016, and there was talk during the week about how Georgia may be in play for Clinton. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's wishful thinking. They even, earlier than that, they were talking about how even Texas could be in play for Clinton, that it looks like it could be going to swing state status, which was a total
When they said
lie.
that, I just, oh, wow, they're pulling monkeys out of places that...
Well, I was getting upset because I had no choice but to kind of think that the polling was accurate, which, by the way, polling in 2012 turned out, in hindsight, to be pretty damn accurate. All right? So when they were talking about the polling in 2016, it was pretty upsetting because I thought, oh, they're usually pretty accurate with this stuff.
Right.
Turns out we found out through CNN leaks months later that they were a bunch of bold-faced liar, fake news people. Anyway, so getting back to Georgia. So election night comes along, and I'm looking at all the percentages. And what they'll do is they'll give the red color to a state if they're calling it for that state.
Yeah, it's going to be that state's called for sure.
And if they'll give it a blue color if they're calling it for Clinton.
Right.
And so they don't have to revisit it or anything like that. They're just going to say, we're giving these delegates, so we're calling it for Clinton. We're calling it for Trump. That kind of stuff. Georgia was way ahead all night for Trump. Trump was way ahead in Georgia all night. 11, but nobody would call for it. Now, by the way, Clinton had a ginormous lead in Pennsylvania. I think at one point she was ahead 72 to whatever.
It was insane. Yeah.
Because they were counting the Philadelphia votes first, which is fine, whatever. If they know how to do their system, I understand not calling it for one or the other yet. I'm totally cool with that. But Clinton was up by like 70, and they weren't calling it for her quite yet, and we found out later why, because Trump ended up winning it. Georgia was ahead real big for Trump. Trump was way ahead in Georgia, big. 11 o'clock rolls around. Trump never trailed by more than anything significant. I mean, he never trailed in Georgia.
Right.
He was always ahead by big numbers in Georgia, and they kept on repeating all night. Georgia, it's too close to call. At this point, we're not calling it for anybody yet, Georgia. By the end of the night, 11 o'clock rolls around, maybe even midnight. They finally say, well, breaking news, Fox News alert, whatever, we're calling Georgia for Trump. But at no point the entire night was it ever in question. Never.
No, right.
It was never in question. So something weird is going on with Georgia. I think there's like this all-in mentality with the Democrats on Georgia, and I don't really know why. Because Trump won big in Georgia. Romney won big in Georgia. I think probably McCain won big in Georgia.
Here's the thing. The thing is that Democrats are believing the polls. The polls are polling wrongly, bigly, and
Big
bigly.
league. By the way, that's a trigger word for me.
Really? I thought it was funny to call it bigly.
I don't criticize people publicly because a lot of these people are diehard supporters.
Well, I know it's
of me.
big league.
Right. But
So I shouldn't fall in that gap.
No, it triggers me because it makes me think that the people think that he's saying bigly. He's not saying bigly.
No.
I see a lot of Democrat journalists out there, like blue check journalists,
Or
saying
then
bigly.
saying Democratic Party. No, we're all democratically elected parties. Just one happens to be a Democrat.
Did I say Democratic?
No. You didn't. I'm just. Those are the words that they twist and change.
Right, but when I see somebody use the word bigly, it makes me feel like I'm watching somebody who's singing the lyrics to a song I know.
Oh, and it's wrong.
And
song.
they say the wrong words, and they say it with a lot of confidence. And you're just like, you do realize that it's not that word. It's, yeah.
Right. No, I got you.
Yeah. It's not those words.
Big league.
Yeah.
Anywho, the Democrats are believing the polling numbers that they're getting, and they're polling more Democrats than Republicans because they believe more people side with Democrat or sign up as a Democrat than Republican based on the numbers that they see. We know it's false. We know it's not true. Folks, America is coming together big league and making it great again. They were beside themselves. It was zero. Trump even tweeted out 0-4 Republican. Republicans winning 4-0 against Democrats. Democrats on a losing streak of 4 in a row. At the end of this week, their losing streak is 5 in a row.
You know, the reason why is because they literally have not figured out what they're doing wrong yet. And every day I see them behaving the way that they are. I've even called them out and said, bro, I'm helping you out here. This is why you lost. Right. Because of what you just tweeted or something like that. It's mainly, the main thing is, first of all, they fail to realize just how many Bernie Sanders supporters have jumped on the Trump train. They just refuse to acknowledge that. Cassandra Fairbanks was a Bernie chick. Totally.
Right.
And she was really upset at the way he was treated by the DNC. And the DNC convention happened, which was a total debacle. They literally locked out delegates from states.
Yeah, dude, I don't get that.
They did a casting call to replace them with actors in the seats. And people had walked out. I can't believe that they thought that Clinton had a chance. I'll never forget telling my friends who aren't very political, a lot of them are millennials, and I play poker with them once a week. And I remember telling them, I think Trump's going to win this thing. And they're like, really?
Right.
And I was like, I'm telling you, he has a much better chance than you think. And then in hindsight, how could it have been in doubt at all? I mean, look at her rallies, if that's what you want to call them.
And we even reported on all that.
Right.
And if you want to be part of the show live on the message board, it's very active. Go to smithradio.info. Kekistan Rose just tweeted up, because we were talking about mispronouncing words, and in songs, if you sing a song and you sing the wrong one, but with confidence, it's mispronounced. Kekistan said, dirty deeds done dirt sheep. I've never heard somebody call it done dirt sheep. Have you ever heard somebody mispronounce done dirt?
Well, what did she think it said?
Dirty deeds, AC/DC song,
yeah, right.
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap.
Yeah, that is the lyrics, right?
Right, but he said dirty deeds done dirt sheep.
Done dirt cheap.
Yeah, but the mispronunciation is sheep.
Oh, you mean SHEEP?
Yeah, how about this one of all time?
Oh, yeah.
Of all time, wrapped up like a deuce, a runner in the night.
Okay.
And a deuce was a motorcycle guy, like a motorcycle jacket, deuces.
Okay.
So wrapped up like a deuce,
it's not the
runner
word.
In the night.
It's not the other word.
No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, my gosh.
Just want to let you know that is one of my most famous ones.
So when you say bigly, that's how I feel when I hear that. So don't say bigly.
Wrapped up like a deuce, like a runner in the night. There you go. Blinded by the light, folks. So as Democrats are losing, and this is my last soundbite of Bernie Sanders, Anderson Cooper asks Bernie, this is where he separates himself, about what is going on with the Democrat Party. What are they doing? Why we're losing? We're issues? What's going on, Bernie?
Democrats fall short in the special election in Georgia, the fourth contest since the president was elected where the Democrats have lost. Focusing a lot on President Trump, not necessarily, running everyone knows that they're against President Trump. I'm not sure people know what they're for.
Well, that's a good point. And I know that many of us are trying to deal just with that very valid point that you make. And what we are for is to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. $1 trillion investment would create up to 13 million good-paying jobs, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel and into sustainable energy. And when we do that, we create millions of jobs, making public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Oh,
education has changed.
Everything for free.
Has changed. Our kids need higher education, whether through college or vocational schools, in order to get the good jobs that are out there. And we have got to tell the billionaire class, who are doing phenomenally well, that Trump is serving so arduously right now. We've got to say to this class, you know what? Yes, you're going to have to start paying your fair share of taxes so our kids will have the opportunity to get the education that they need. You can't get it all just because you're a billionaire.
Bernie Sanders goes straight Julius Caesar, attempting to buy the people, pay them
that's what
to do absolutely nothing, et tu brute, and that's what happened to Julius Caesar. He got stuck in the knives in the back. It just doesn't work. But you can hear him screaming though, right? Listen to me, children! Free crap!
It's the whole
whatever
thing
you want is
so
free.
Stupid. You know, it used to be that you were largely an adult by the time you were done with 8th grade. And I'm not saying we should have a bunch of dumb idiots out there, but if somebody's going to go on to become a welder or a car mechanic and all that kind of stuff, it used to be when you were done with 8th grade and you were a man and you weren't going to work in an office in a city. And I'm talking long before we were born. We're talking 100 years ago. You would go and tend to the fields in the farm, like maybe the family farm,
right.
Or you would be what do they call those? The co-op when you would plow or you would farm land that you don't even own.
Yeah, co-op.
Co-op. Yeah, the farming co-op, that kind of stuff. And if you wanted to learn something like a skilled trade, you would learn it on the job.
Right.
You would do what they called you would be a
apprentice.
Apprentice.
Started out as apprentice. Like in the machine shop industry, which is where I'm at, something I fought most of my life, but I found out it was a God-given talent, and so I embraced it, and it's provided me well. That type of career, the only way to become a machinist, not an operator, but a machinist, you have to spend 4 years as an apprentice, but you're making $12, $15 an hour, maybe $12, $15 an hour.
Yeah,
and then you work your way up as an apprentice, a journeyman, a master, craftsman, through the levels of skill.
Right. I would think it would be good if you're going to become an apprentice, like welding apprentice or whatever kind of skilled labor you would have out there, carpenter, whatever, that it would be nice to be able to start that apprenticeship at 16. That way, by the time you're 20, you could be a journeyman and be a master without having to be, some old man.
Imagine having a brand new car at 22 and a house on the way and getting set in your life and really setting yourself up for a good life to come.
Yeah, we've set up a society now where at the age of 26, you're not a huge catch for a woman.
Well, and that's what the Democrats complained about during Georgia 6th.
Really?
Their number one complaint on the newscast, the radio and whatnot, we couldn't get a hold of the millennials.
Oh, yeah, they were living at home.
We called them at the house, at the crib, and old mom and dad, those nasty Republican parents.
Right.
Conservative, responsible.
Well, maybe we can find some common ground with the communists. In Soviet Russia, I got explained this to me when I was in 6th grade, which I thought was fascinating. It sounded bad at the time, but now, all these years later, I can kind of see the merit in it. What they would do in communist Soviet Russia, the Soviet Union, actually, is when you were in 6th grade, they gave everybody this big, giant test, and it was equivalent to what we received when we were in 6th grade called the college preparatory class, or a college preparatory test.
Right.
And in America, if you passed the test, you would then be eligible for college prep classes in high school. And everybody that failed it went to all the dumb classes.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they weren't dumb. They just weren't like that high-level stuff.
I was just bored.
And you could be like,
for a whole year, I thought I had mono for an entire year. Come to find out, I was just really, really bored.
Well, they weren't drugging you these days.
They would have drugged me, dude.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
They would have drugged me.
Absolutely. So in Soviet Russia, you would take this class in 6th grade, and this is exactly what would happen to you. If you passed it, you went on to what they called work for the government. And what they would do, they would put you in these government schools, and everything was run by the government. But you would continue your education under the government watchful eye, and you would work in these high-level positions in the government once you finally graduate, got out of college, or not college, but all your schooling, because you passed that test. If you failed the test, you would go on to go to school in a vocation. You would be a cook, or you'd be in some sort of service industry, or maybe even a trade, like a skilled trade, and those were the classes you went to. In a way, the only difference that I don't like the mandate. I think you should be allowed to try whatever you want to try. And another thing they would do, you didn't get to choose. So in America, whatever you have an interest in, like let's say I have an interest in the culinary arts. Maybe I want to be a chef of some nice 4-star restaurant. Maybe I'd be on TV for my skill in cooking or whatever. Maybe I'll start a YouTube channel. Man, there's one really popular on how to cook certain recipes and all that kind of stuff. You could choose that in America. In Soviet Russia, they'd be like, hey, we need a cook and you're next in line. That's literally what they would do. They would treat you as a number, and they would see what their needs were. We need cooks in this town, so we're going to send you to cook school. And it didn't matter if you had any interest in doing that whatsoever.
Right.
So that's the difference.
Well, in Germany, in a dictatorship-type society like that, it was only engineering, only engineering, only engineering. So regardless of whatever you wanted to do, they would dictate and tell you what to do. In this country, we need to get back to doing what people, and it's not doing everything. Classes and schools want you to know everything in every subject. No.
Why does a cook need to know calculus?
He doesn't. The word is called focus, F-O-C-U-S. Focus on one course until successful. That's how every wildly famous person has ever done it. Tiger Woods, golf. Any rock band, any guitarist, any lead, like the bands in the 60s, the Zeppelins and the AC/DCs and even the ABBA and the Michael Jacksons.
Wow, ABBA?
ABBA,
really?
ABBA.
We're calling ABBA the benchmark now.
Carpenters.
Oh, were they good at making wood products?
Singing and jamborees and stuff.
Were they Amish?
Amish singers.
No, were the Carpenters Amish?
Because they did it so well. But aside from that, what about race car drivers? I mean, you have to be obsessed and find something that you want and obsess about.
I got a story for you.
I love your stories.
Check this story.
Story me up.
You know I'm a wrestling coach, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, when we were kids, there was really no such thing as homeschooling. Like, you heard a rumor about some kid being homeschooled.
We were told they was special.
Special.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't interact with other children.
They were re-special?
Re-specials.
They were re-special. Okay, so before we get in trouble with the FCC, with Twitter probably, or yeah, oh my gosh, people get banned.
Dude, if YouTube found out we called somebody retarded, even me saying that might get us.
Hunter Avalon uses that word because he's a young millennial, actually.
Right.
And that's actually the new word for them.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so here's the story. I'm a wrestling coach, and I actually coach at a very elite academy here in Cincinnati. And we go up against other elite kids from other elite academies around, several. Some of them could come in from out of state or whatever. We wrestle against them, whatever. And I found out that there's this new academy down in, it's either Kentucky or Tennessee. I think it's Kentucky. That all the kids are homeschooled. Well, the reason they're homeschooled is because they're specializing in wrestling. Because their instructor is a former Olympian. Yeah, so he's like doing the really serious stuff. So what they do is they come into this school. It's a building, and when I say homeschooled, I mean that's what they are officially. But they show up to a building outside the home. They're not at home, where they do homeschooling classes in between wrestling practices.
Holy smoke!
Yeah, and when I heard this, I was just like, really?
With that. I mean, that would be like Olympic wrestlers.
Well, now I'm finding out that there's a lot of people who are gifted athletes in America who become homeschooled so that they could focus on the gift that they really have, which is, it could be gymnastics, it could be anything, you name it. If it's like a sport that figure skating, figure skaters who go on to go into the Olympics, turns out a lot of them are homeschooled because that's how they can focus on their figure skating. Gymnasts who have aspirations of the Olympics are doing homeschooling so that they can wake up in the morning and spend, 4 hours in the morning doing a practice and then another 4 hours in the evening doing practices. And this is only possible when they're homeschooling.
Right.
I don't really have a problem with that as long as it's not like, hey, we got 10,000 girls across the country doing gymnastics while they're homeschooling. It's like, okay, how many of those are really gifted to the point where they're going to go on to go in the Olympics? I mean, if it's like Shawn Johnson, who did go on to win a whole bunch of gold medals, I would have no problem finding out that she was homeschooled. Because she ended up making it.
But here's the thing, though, and I speak about homeschooling because we do that. We are able to give our children the correct information.
Oh, I see where you're going with
in
this.
an extremely efficient amount of time.
So you're saying
if you took an 8-hour day for a normal school kid. Well, they probably the bus ride and the bus ride.
It's like 6.5 hours for your average school day,
and then the bus ride. So
yeah,
so like 8 to 9 hours. You're at home.
You have a more green thing because you would.
I'm not using a diesel powered gigantic bus
or driving them yourself.
Right.
You're saving the world from greenhouse gases.
And I didn't even know it. I didn't go start a bonfire outside to catch up.
That's so hilarious.
So you take 8 to 9 hours. My wife is able to jam the information down the throats of the Utes.
Okay.
The very fastest amount of time I've seen them accomplish their work efficiently is about 4 hours. And that's on a phenomenally good day when they're getting through it. 4 hours, they're done. So you can spend another 4 hours on your craft, your gymnastic, your art.
So you're definitely opening up time. And I will have to admit, and Brian could vouch for it because he went through the brick and mortar school too. It probably wasn't the most efficient thing.
I promise you wasn't because it was prison for me.
Yeah, you're just sitting around and you're looking out at the birds outside. And
wishing,
like,
and it's staring at the clock and watching it go backwards.
Yeah.
I looked at that like an hour ago and it was the same time.
Yeah.
Hasn't even moved.
Staring at the clock. Oh my gosh. That's what you did a lot in those classes.
Prison time. So, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote a book called Outliers.
I have that.
Malcolm Gladwell is a little bit of a socialist. Kind of walk away from him. Yeah, Black Lives Matter kind of guy. Yeah, kind of walk away from him.
Oh, he's got so many books.
He's a good guy.
He's got a ton of books, and they're all like these motivational.
Right. Just like you don't put the person up on the shelf. Don't put anybody up on the shelf except God and Christ. They're on the shelf. Don't put a human being on the shelf. So if they write one good book, that doesn't mean that they're on the shelf because they're human and they have follies that can fall apart. However, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. In the book Outliers, he discusses what it takes to be an outlier, what it takes to have that edge. Or all those folks have been famously successful, from the Beatles to Tiger Woods, to just name anybody that's ever been successful. And he broke it down. And he came to this realization with hockey, which is kind of related to wrestling in a sense because it's a seasonal type of event. And as he was at a hockey match, he was looking at the roster, the roles, the players, and he realized that almost 99% of all the players were born in like February, December, November. And all that comes full circle because of their birth date. They started a year early, so they were the youngest one in the class, if you will, by almost a half a year. So while their birthday is in November and they're actually practicing hockey, the people in front of them that are a half a year older than them started later. So there's like this 1 year gap, half a year gap, where the younger hockey player coming up has got an extra half a year on everybody else with a practice.
Okay.
When you get to the 10,000 hour mark of practice, 10,000 hours of practice.
Is it like flipping a switch? Like or it's like playing a video game and you reach the achievement.
Correct.
Like 10,000, I've unlocked an achievement.
Right. The magic number 10,000, I don't know how he came up with it, but it's really good to read it. That 10,000 hour mark, scouts are scouting for new hockey recruits
that have that achievement.
That have nailed that achievement 6 months ahead of everybody else.
Okay.
And so they're primed and they're poised to have that extraordinary ability. Anyways, my whole point is, these kids that we're raising up now, and some musicians that are in their 50s and 60s now are calling the music of today just absolute garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage.
And I'm starting to see it. I'm like,
I've told you my theory on.
And it's not that it's
classic rock and all that kind of stuff. Did I ever tell you that theory?
We talked about it. It's not that music. I'm not saying music now is garbage because I don't like it. There is music that I can find that I like, and I like anything, I like everything. If it's good, if it's this, that. No, we don't have what your dad was doing as a teenager.
Yeah, my dad. There's a couple things going on here, and I'll tell you my theory. I'll tell you what was going on, and then I'll tell you my theory. My dad was in a band, and growing up, I was like, "Wow, a band!" And then he would tell me stories about it. He was getting hired by fraternities and doing parties like that, and then he would go and do small concerts for hire, and then also he did have some songs on the radio. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like famous!" And he's like, "No, not at all."
My dad's famous, man.
He said, "Not at all." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Back then, bands like ours were an absolute dime a dozen. All the fraternities would have a live band every single weekend, every single party, and they could give them peanuts to do it. And everywhere you go, they would hire these bands for peanuts, and some of them would probably even play for free. And they were everywhere. They were a dime a dozen. This was in 1969 and 1970. They were everywhere. Everybody was in a band. Everybody had a band. It was like, which bands do you like? It was probably hard. And these were all in the same city. And I'll bet you every single city across America was the same way. And you look at today, and if you know a musician, it's probably like, "Oh yeah, I was in the band in school." Like that's about the extent to musicians. So here's my theory. When I was a little kid, my grandma had a piano in the living room, which, by the way, is at my brother's house now. He inherited it. And my mom, who has no musical talent whatsoever, played the piano. She knew how to read the music. She knew how to play it. And not because my grandma had a piano, but because back then it was believed, and I would, if I had to give you an exact time frame, I would say from the turn of the 20th century and probably before, all the way up until about, I'm going to say 1960s, early 60s. You were required as a child to take piano lessons.
Right.
Everybody took piano lessons. It became the big joke. The big joke was, "Oh no, not piano lessons." Everybody was taking piano lessons. And if you know anything about music, piano is the first instrument you should learn because you can transition to just about any musical instrument from there. You can read the music, you understand all the chords and harmonies and all this kind of stuff. And so you can transition all these different instruments. And it's my theory that since everybody was required to take, like almost everybody, you would never believe some of the people. Like, "You play piano?" Like, yeah, because I was a kid.
I played piano.
Oh, you did? Oh, you were the dying breed.
I was the last one.
You were the last one.
My mom,
Gen X.
Yep, my mom was obsessed with it.
It was the baby boomers was the last generation that absolutely had to.
Yeah, because my dad is the early on of the baby boomers.
Early. Yeah, in fact, he might have even He might have even been
1946 to 1964, so he was like 46. He was like...
Oh, he was born in 46?
One of the very first ones.
Okay, yeah, he was the first one, yeah.
And so my mom, kind of in the middle, she's a bit younger than him. And so the two of them, my mom, decided, we all have to have a piano. We had a piano in the house.
There you go. Everybody
forced to do piano lessons, and none of the four of us kids liked it, wanted it.
Nobody did.
And
the baby boomers didn't like it.
Right, and she realized really quickly, because she would like try and play.
Mm-hmm.
And
she knew how to play, right?
She did, but it was...
I rest my case.
Heart and song.
Right.
And that's all she could play, and it was just...
My mom was the same way. She just didn't have the musical talent.
Heart and soul. Heart and soul.
Yeah.
It's in my head. It's
right.
Brainwashed.
Well, turns out...
Chopsticks.
Turns out, since everybody was required to be jammed into music... Oh, and by the way, up until the millennials came along... everybody took music in school. Everybody. It was a required class in elementary school. There was at least, I think for us as Generation Xers, we took music twice a week. And on the off days, it was art. There was art, music for 4 days a week. Gym class.
Where'd that get us?
Well, I think that they say that people who learn music do better in math. And there's a lot of I would have never understood sine waves, and we learned a lot about sound waves too. Actual sound waves and waves, electromagnetic waves. The equations you use in electromagnetic waves in physics in college is all the same. The sound waves, all that stuff. The waves, and if oceanographers have to learn about how the waves work, tidal waves and all that kind of stuff. All those equations are used in all waves. Didn't matter what kind they are.
Right.
It's universal. But anyway, so if you have taken music classes, you kind of intuitively know that.
And we're talking about the youths growing up. We're talking about the world that we live in now, that it's rapidly changing, and that the fact that music today is just Well,
I want to
where did it come from?
Wrap up my theory.
Because they don't have the 10,000 hours of practice, but... And they're not practicing on it because...
Well, my theory is... the theory of why classic rock from the 60s and 70s
so good
good. It's because since everybody was required to get into music back then, you're going to find the ones that have the gift. Whereas today, there's probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids who may have the gift of music. There's a Mozart out there that's being jammed through public school with no music, whose parents would never know to identify them as a musical genius because they don't even get them into music anymore.
Right.
And they just go right through without having ever known whether or not they were a musical genius or not. When back then, since everybody was required to at least get in it, there's gonna be kids that are gonna be like, wow, this is where it's at. This is my love right here. Boom, they're in it. Or a parent will be like, wow, I got Junior into piano lessons and he's a freaking savant. And then boom, just like that, they're in the music industry. Fast forward to when they become teenagers, they're already they're like
people are shocked at jaw dropping.
Yeah. And so that's how you find your Jimmy Pages and your Eric Claptons and all these people. And so that's why, and also why there's so many genius keyboardists. If you listen to your Emerson, Lake and Palmers, even the Doors had the keyboards. Everybody had a keyboard. Why? Because they all took piano lessons. There was always some great keyboardist in the classic rock back then, and it's because they all were forced to go through piano lessons, and they were identified as very, very talented musicians. It's a shame we don't have that these days. It's a real shame. By the way, I did get my daughter into piano lessons, and I found out very quickly this was not her love.
Wasn't mine? Yeah, I bought a real full-blown guitar, electric guitar, and amp worth $2,000, and I got a deal on it. And
but at least you found out.
I attempted.
You found out that they weren't.
So we're talking about America. We're talking about capitalism versus communism. Communism jamming everything at everybody, and literally making people. I want to say making people stupid, but when you teach a child everything that You set up a curriculum and you say, okay, this school will teach your child 1,000 different things so that they know everything. They'll be so smart. No, it doesn't work like that.
They'll be the jack of all trades.
Right. It doesn't work like that. Kids and people, human beings, find something they like, they love, attach themselves to it, and move through it. In America, in a free society, in a capitalist society, you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to just...
Only now because of the homeschooling.
Yeah, the homeschooling has really taken off because of the failure of the government trying to educate our children. And the reason why they did that is because the communists got in the government and they're like, oh, we need to get a hold of their mind mush brain. And when you hear on the radio, I heard this again, we're setting up meetings. Come to us and we will show you if your kid is ready for pre-kindergarten.
No, it's preschool. It's school before preschool.
I said kindergarten. Yeah, preschool. It's two schools.
They're trying to raise your children.
They want your child at 3, and we will show you how they blossom.
And they try to make this argument. I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's a lie. I really, truly, when they say that getting them started at 3 years old is going to have them ready for preschool and then ready for kindergarten, I think the worst thing, let me just say positive. The best thing for a child is to be two parents teaming up and teaching them how to behave in civilization and civilized society, how to just do your basic things. I don't think anything can replace that. And I think that taking them away from that for half the day in order to indoctrinate them and all that crap that they're learning is not as good.
We talk to our children. We have conversations with our children all the time. When they're around my wife, the attention, the caring, the loving, the emotional, mental and emotional growth that they have in a home like that versus in some kind of literally daycare where they could care less and they're just getting paid either by you or by the government. Nothing, you can't compare that. And now we have a society right now to where 75% of blacks in America are born out of wedlock without a two-parent family. You've got the abortion rate in New York State. 1 out of every black baby is aborted. 50%. In the Hispanic community, it's almost as bad. It's around 60% born out of wedlock. In the white, non-Hispanic, white, Caucasian family,
I'll take it.
25%. And these numbers show why. It's not because of race. It's not because of government. It's not because of this or that. They show exactly why you've got a successful... because his skin color is white means he's successful. No, it's because he's got a stable environment. You got to get these kids with stable environments. That's the big thing.
I mean, I have this one family that I was coaching in wrestling, and it was a black family, and the dad was a cop, and the mom, I have no idea what she did, but she was obviously very involved and very good with her kids. And he just decided, I'm just going to try my hardest to get the best for my kids. And he used the fact that they are a black family to, he was enticing top schools to get them in there for diversity's sake. And so they were like, okay. And it could have been any family that they would say, hey, let us in for tuition free, whatever. And so anyway, he got them into these top schools and everything like that. They were great kids before they went in. They're great kids at the school, and they graduate. They're going to college. They went to I think it was $18,000 a year or something like that.
Wow. For
this school, which he wanted to get them in there because he said that this stat will blow your mind. He said this school has a 97% rate of getting the kids into their first choice of college. 97% first choice in college. I was like, wow. So I don't know where they are now, but I know both. One of them's probably graduated from college. The other one, I think, probably would have started college maybe last year. And so I have to follow up on them, see what ever came
Mr. Producer has corrected me. We have a new producer on the message board. One out of every two black kids, one out of every two, 50% are aborted in New York.
Oh,
one out of every two. I said one out of every black family.
One out of every. That doesn't make any sense.
I know you didn't catch it either. Anyways, one out of every two.
Every black family.
50%.
Okay,
it's 50%. LA Unified. That's the school district, the government industry, the combine out there in Los Angeles. From the youths going from 6th grade to 7th grade. You take all of those kids from 6th grade to 7th grade, and then fast forward, and how many of those actually graduate high school? 50%.
That seems like an unimaginable stat, because when I was in high school,
50% drop out.
When I was in high school, and I had a limited circle because I was in college prep. So, like, all the people that weren't in college prep, only a portion of them I really knew very well.
Right.
But I just don't remember so many people dropping out. And I was in an inner city public school.
Yeah.
Inner city public. So, if there was any school in Cincinnati that would have had bad stats like that, it would have been my school. And it's possible. I mean, I met some people years later that graduated the same year I did. Never knew them. I was like, you graduated what? In 94? What? How do I not know you? He's like, I don't know.
Wow.
Well, it turns out, dude dropped out at some point. He's like, yeah, it just wasn't for me. So it's possible that the stats really were that bad and I just never knew it. I do know this. We had 33% absentee on any given Monday and any given Friday. The entire school. 33%.
Wow.
And on any other Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, average 25%. So that's obviously, you're begging to be dropped out at that point.
Right. And they used to suspend kids back in the day. They do not now. It is illegal. A full-blown suspension is no more than 90 days. Expulsion. Full-blown expulsion.
Expulsion, yeah.
90 days and you come back.
Yeah, that's not even...
because they need to get their money. They make money per head. It's like cattle.
I asked one of our teachers at this inner city public school, why don't they get these kids out of here? They need to get out. And he was like, well, there's this thing, this philosophy that they have here. What's called like a right to be there, a right to learn. And so they feel that it's the right for the kids to be able to come to school. And I'm like, whatever. They didn't have a right to be at the school. They have a right to be in prison, probably. And so, yeah, we had some bad kids there.
Yeah. So, and we're just talking about America, capitalism versus communism, Trump making America great again, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton calling the GOP the party of death. The hatred, the anger that's on the left.
Yeah, we're the party of death because you guys are killing us with gunfire.
Right. All the hate and the vitriol, the anger, the seething. The more hate and anger you see coming from the left and the media, it is it should be a flag, a signal to you to let you know we're doing good. And Frank Lutz on...
What?
I called him Frank Lutz.
He is a Lutz.
Frank Luntz, who guaranteed November 8th, mark my words, I guarantee Hillary Clinton wins the presidency.
Can I get my money back?
I would say for at least 2 or 3 months, I put him on notifications, and I would retweet that to him every single time.
Did you get blocked?
I'm surprised I hadn't gotten blocked.
Oh, boy.
Anyways, so Frank Luntz does a focus group. He's trying to get Hollywood and Trump supporters together. He's trying to figure out where the divide is. And this is on CBS. So he goes to the this group. You can Google it up. It's not that hard. Just do Frank Luntz focus group and then timeline this week because it went down this week. He was on Charlie. I can't even believe Charlie Rose is still alive. Have you seen Charlie Rose?
Yeah, he looks like his skin is melting.
Yeah. This is who they're relying on CBS. Anyway, so Luntz goes to his supporters in his focus group, and this one's for you, Vanessa. I dug deep for this. No, not really, but I did find it. I wanted to make it part of the stack of stuff.
All right.
He said to those who said that they voted for Trump, fast forward 6 months, and the question that he put to them, what is one word, 6 months into the presidency, give me one word that describes Trump in your mind?
I'd say honest.
Wow. Determined. Effective.
True.
Strong.
Productive.
Yeah.
Tough SOB. Very authentic.
Wow, those are great words. That pretty much sums it up right there.
Tough SOB.
The very first one, honest. I'm telling you, this idea that the fake news keeps coming up with, that he's lied, that he's a liar. You hear it from people like Seth Meyers and all these, your Bill Maurs or whatnot, where they try to say that he's a liar, that he lies, that's just what he is. That's how he does it, because he's lying to everybody. It's not resonating, which really, really makes me feel great about humanity. My faith in humanity has been totally restored with the entire Trump candidacy, because it didn't work. It didn't work on you guys. You guys aren't sheep. You guys aren't mind-numb robots. At least not majority of you, I guess, that are legal voters, not the illegals, not the 3 million illegals from California, obviously.
Right.
Because Clinton did actually win the popular vote, but that's because they purposely make it so that it's very easy to commit voter fraud. And they do that on purpose because they know that they need the voter fraud because it works in their favor. If you take, like, for instance, if you get 3 million, or let's say 5 million illegal votes, 3 million of them are going to go to the Democrat. That actually gives them a plus 2 million. So they're going to go for it. They're going to encourage that as much as possible. But my faith in humanity is restored because in the past, when they would lie about a candidate, the electorate just didn't pay close enough attention to distinguish that that's a lie and that they're going to reject the lie. Everybody, look, a vast majority, 90% or more, maybe 99% of everybody out there who have to make a decision on who to vote for are going to recoil and be very, very upset that they were being lied to by somebody about their candidate or their opponent's candidate by the media. And we've seen that borne out this election cycle.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's great. I think it's great. And the lies are not working anymore. And so I love that very first one, honest. And all the other stuff, the tough SOB and strong. And strong is good because as a leader of the free world who has to deal with all these crazy dictators around the world, you want to be strong.
Right. No, absolutely.
At the negotiating
Covfefe.
Yeah.
Covfefe. I was typing Covfefe as Kekistan Rose posted block letters, one word to describe Trump.
Covfefe. That pretty much sums it up. That's the ultimate troll word, right? Man, he had them busy for a week. The fake news was busy for a week talking about Covfefe.
So Luntz goes back to his focus group and he talks to them and he's trying to change their minds and sway them like he does. And the next question he asked him was, did the Russians affect the election? Did they have an effect on it? What is your thoughts on Russia and the elections? And this is what the focus group came back with.
No, I mean, they didn't get into the voting machines and change votes. It wouldn't have made any difference one way or the other.
Don't do it for the purpose of overturning an election.
If the Russians affected the election, then that means they changed the minds of the American people, and that's not what happened.
That's what the purpose of this is to have an investigation to see if there are specifics. Do you want to shut that investigation down?
Yeah.
It's a giant, huge waste of time. If there's an investigation into this whole Russian thing, then it needs to be on, well, they physically went into our machines, hacked our machines, and actually changed the election results. People read fake stuff on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram all day. Anybody can put that up.
That's a very good point. So what they're trying to say and what actually happened, by the way, this is very important if you're listening to this right now. Go back to our December, it was either December 6th or December 9th. I can't remember which exact date it was, but it's here on Spreaker. You're listening to us right now on Spreaker. Go back to our first week of December, probably December 6th, episode called Russia, Russia, Russia. That episode has aged very well. You got to understand, we were making some claims that we were using our instincts on. All right, we were going on gut instinct, and that's based on an entire lifetime of experience and knowledge gain and our vast intelligence here. But that episode explains everything, even that long ago. How many months ago? It's like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it now.
6 months ago, we made that Russia, Russia, Russia. It is loaded with all kinds of things that have aged so well.
If you type in the Google Russia, 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 Smyth Radio, it will be, dude, that's actually pretty damn cool.
Oh, it's the top
one.
one.
My goodness. Yeah, Russia, 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 Smyth Radio, Spreaker will come up, and YouTube will come up.
What if you put a space between Smyth and radio? See if that works. No. Oh, it's... okay, make Smyth Radio one word and Russia, 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 and it'll be the top thing on Google. Listen to that, and you'll be like, wow, they did this that long ago? Basically, what we did was we explained what Russia does, what they did, what they're trying to say what Democrats are trying to say they did, and how it's dishonest and it's not true. And here we are all these months later, and it was dead on accurate. It was totally accurate. And people refer to it, some of our fans refer to that episode even today because it was just dead on accurate. It was great. So they're trying to get you to believe that something else happened. But what really happened is that Russia had no impact on the election whatsoever. If you listen to what Comey said, FBI Director Comey, during his investigation or during his the questioning, the hearings. During the hearings, he gave this heartfelt speech of why he wanted to combat this Russia hacking because it had affected the election. And guess how he said it was affected? He said that the Russian election, or the American election, was affected by Russia because they had influenced our thinking by giving us information that would change our minds about who to vote for. And so he's literally saying that we may have the wrong person as president because of information we received that we would not have received if it wasn't for Russian meddling. What was that information? That information was the DNC leaks and the Podesta emails. And what do we know about the DNC leaks and the Podesta emails? We know they were factual. They were true. There was nothing fake in it. Even at one point, the Democrats were trying to say, well, the Russians, when they hacked the DNC servers, they could have changed that up. This stuff's not real. And later on, we found out that it was 100% real. All of the DNC leaks and all the Podesta emails were unaltered. They were 100% true, 100% real. So what conclusion can we draw from all this? The conclusion we can draw from this, from what Comey was trying to say, was that Russia influenced the election because we were supposed to base our vote on not having all the information. We needed to not have all the facts and all the truth in order to come to the conclusion that we should vote for Hillary because she'll be the best choice. when given all the facts, we realize, oh, God, these are bad people because we know what kind of crap they're doing behind the scenes thanks to DNC leaks. And so now that we know the truth, we changed our minds to vote for Trump. By the way, guys, listening right now, I don't agree with that conclusion, but that's what Comey's trying to get you to believe. They're trying to get you to believe that had Russia not been involved, we would have all been a bunch of morons who didn't know the truth. And by more, I mean we were uneducated. We didn't have all the facts. And once we get the facts, we're voting for the person he didn't want us to vote for. That's literally what we're talking about. Now, here's what I believe really happened. What I really believe happened, and I say this all in Russia. I'll give you the short version. That Russia attacks everything American. They hack into everything. They steal everything. Not just
their attempts. I mean, that's
what they do.
Yeah, they've been put on this earth to do just that in their minds.
Right. So they go in and they hack and they hack and they hack. Did they hack the DNC servers? Well, if anybody could have, because they weren't very secure, then I guarantee you the Russians hacked into that. They hack into everything they can get into because that's what they do.
Right.
The real question is, did we receive that information because Russia hacked it? I think we all know the answer to that, and that answer is no. And there's several reasons. Number one, we were pretty damn sure that Seth Rich took all of that information from the DNC servers and released it to WikiLeaks as the DNC leaks.
Correct.
And he was killed for it. Or at least that's what we think. Our conclusion is that they killed, and by the way, they killed him before all of the stuff was released by WikiLeaks. That tells me that the DNC killed him, more specifically, Hillary Clinton killed him hoping that it would prevent it from coming out. They felt like if they could kill Seth Rich in time, that maybe all that information won't be released. Well, it was too late. It had already been given to Julian Assange. And by the way, Julian Assange, who has never been caught in a single misinformation ever.
No lie, no wrong, been correct for going on 11 years.
He said multiple times to Sean Hannity that it was not a Russian person or operative or spy or any such person who was the source for WikiLeaks. Now, why would he say that if it wasn't true? He could have just said, we don't release sources. We don't release any information on any sources. He actually bucked that trend by releasing to you that it was not a Russian operative. So he said that. And on top of all that, Russia does not have a history of ever releasing stuff that they stole. They've never done it before. And one of the big reasons is because I don't think that they have the understanding of American culture to know how devastating it would have been to release that kind of information.
Right.
You remember that story? I think it was from you, Brian. You got it from somewhere, but I think I heard it from you. Or maybe I saw it. I don't know where I got it from. But Russia...
I'll take credit for it. That's fine.
Russia had hacked places like Yahoo. And they have millions and millions of information on individual Americans.
Right.
This information would be purchased by commercial companies for millions and millions of dollars because they could use it in their marketing.
Market them. Yeah, absolutely.
Russia had all of that on individual American citizens. They never knew it had any value. They never used it for anything.
Right. No.
They sat on it. And the reason they sat on it is because they didn't even recognize that it was valuable. They had no idea. That being said, they hack the DNC servers and they look at all these emails, all the Podesta emails, all the information on the DNC servers, and I guarantee you Russia would have been like, this is worthless, and just chuck it. And not even share it. And they never would because they never have. When has Russia ever stole something using espionage and giving it away for free.
No, that would be dumb. It wouldn't even make any damn sense.
Not to them.
No, of course not. They got to profit somehow. Whether
they're going to do it themselves,
right? Either profit themselves, trade for information, trade for money, bargaining chips of sorts. This is a tool. This is a piece. It's like having a golden nugget in your palm. What do you do with it?
Right.
You can do multiple things with it. Anything.
So here's the real truth. The real truth is that the intelligence communities in the deep state, the intelligence communities, the 17 different intelligence communities in America that are run by the deep state, who are actively running a full-blown coup against Trump, or as I like to say, have never given up the transfer of authority from Obama to Trump. As far as I'm concerned, they're still operating as Trump surrogates to this day.
Oh, yeah.
They know and have all the proof that you need that Russia has hacked all of that. They've hacked DNC servers, and they've stolen all kinds of information that would be very damning to Hillary Clinton. That is a fact. We know that is a fact. I never denied that. And here's where they're lying. They're conflating the stealing of that information with manipulating the electorate, which in turn hacks the election because it gets you to vote for somebody that maybe you wouldn't have voted for. Maybe you vote for Trump and you were on the fence, right?
Right.
Well, it turns out that's the big lie. The big lie is that the hacks that happen by Russian officials have anything to do with the DNC leaks. Other than the DNC leaks, what the hell are they talking about that has altered the election? They admit that they have not hacked into voting booths or the machines that tally the votes. Everybody admits that has not taken place, and it wouldn't really work because the tallying machines, the computers that tally the votes, are not hooked to the internet.
Right.
There's no allegations that any of that data has been altered between the point at which the voter votes and the point at which they use all that data to decide who the electoral college at each state goes and votes for. So that part of it was completely secured. And if it wasn't, I'd be the first one to say, hey, something needs to be done about this. There needs to be an investigation into that. And we need to find out who's behind it. We need to find out what kind of effects it had it had any effects in the past, and what we could do about it in the future to stop it. I'll be the first to say that.
Right.
So at the end of the day, this whole thing is a big hoax.
And here's the reason why we've come full circle. This is the reason why the media doesn't get it. Frank Lutz doesn't get it. Americans get it. We all get it. His focus group is telling him, we get what's going on. We know what's real, regardless of CBS, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN.
And everything you want to know about
Comey.
All
you're lying.
And Comey. All you need to know about Comey and the deep state is that they believe that you are a bunch of sheep. You're a bunch of mind-numbed robots. You're zombies. And that any kind of information one way and not the other is going to completely adversely affect the way you vote. I'm not buying that. Now, I do admit that false information that gets people to come to a conclusion, which in this case conclude to vote for one person over the other in a general election, false information is a problem because I don't want somebody to vote for somebody because they thought something that's not true. But the DNC leaks is like, okay, is any of this stuff false? And what else? If it's not the DNC leaks, it's not the Podesta emails being released, what are they talking about has manipulated the public and has actually altered the way the election went down? And Julian Assange, the question to Julian Assange was, well, what's the story? Why is it that all this information comes out about the DNC and nothing comes out about the RNC or Trump? Why didn't they do that? Doesn't it sound like they want to hurt the Democrats and not hurt the Republicans? And his answer was perfect. Trump's an open book. What are you going to find out there? I mean, sure, you found a audio of him, the Access Hollywood audio with Billy Bush, but that's not anything you would hack. That's something that would be in the files at NBC.
That's where NBC would sit on this and knowingly sit on this and wait for the October surprise about Trump grabbing a posse, getting some posse together, and go run the streets.
Yeah.
Something
like that.
Insanity ensues.
Yeah, so that's obviously he's an open book, and anything that they would hack that could find anything bad on him would have certainly probably come out, but they just haven't found any.
Right. So he goes back to Luntz goes back to the focus group, and at the focus group there was a situation that went down a while ago with Trump, where apparently Trump was at an international world leaders. It was kind of like a parade, a little situation, and he asserted himself into the fray to make sure that he got up front, to make sure that it was, I just kind of walked through it and kind of pushed his way through, if you will. And Frank Luntz said to Charlie Rose, when I saw Trump do that, I said, oh my God, this is the most embarrassing moment for America. Why would Trump do that? So Frank went to his focus group and asked him about the way Trump behaves and acts around world leaders, and this is what they had to say about that.
Surprised me the most about that segment is when we showed Trump pushing aside the European leaders at that meeting, and they applauded him. They loved it, because to them it was the White House, it was the president asserting his rightful role as leader of the free world. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is one of the most embarrassing moments. They don't see it that way. They love it, and they want him to keep doing it.
What exactly did he think was embarrassing about it?
That Trump, to Luntz felt that Trump was asserting himself too much. Like the time that Trump went to the headquarters of the Muslim world in Saudi Arabia and gave that was a great speech. Billion Muslim empire a speech, a tongue lashing.
A tongue lashing, that's what it was. And also, remember that one, I can't even remember what country that guy was from, but he grabbed his shoulder and jerked him out of the way. You remember that?
Yes.
He shoved the guy out of the way a little bit, but he did it in a very manly way, and the guy was honored to have
been wretched
sausage hands touch him for the most part. I mean, flat out. I mean, he was like, oh, I didn't think it was anything special. And everybody made a big deal about that. And I think Frank Luntz may have actually been referring to that in particular when he says he was embarrassed by it. And if the guy who had it happen, if the quote-unquote victim of that assault was like, what are you talking about? I didn't even notice anything. What are you guys talking about? If he's not even offended by it, then y'all need to shut up, flat out. And Frank Luntz is just totally missing this entire thing. He just doesn't get it. And he said that his focus group wants to see more of it. Well, I mean, I'm not saying he needs to go around and shove everybody around physically, but we trust his judgment on when to use the physicalities and when not.
Speaking of trusting Trump, it's unfortunate that it hasn't trended as a hashtag, but we've talked about that on this show. Whenever something was coming up,
Bill Mitchell repeats it every episode. He's like, trust Trump, trust Trump. I mean, I'm really surprised it hasn't trended.
And the reason why I say it, and I only say it for the times, like I don't blindly go into something, but if there's a situation at hand that you're not sure of, Trump's going to fall on the right side or not, you can't control it. We voted him in and we can't control it now. You got to trust him. Walk away. He hasn't been wrong yet. I have not seen a moment in time right now where he has done something that is condemnable or something that I would say, dude, that was a mess up. I can't find that. I'm looking, and as soon as it happens, we will report it.
Right. We're not afraid to criticize, but one thing I notice is like when he comes out and says, I really think that the House needs to pass this bill on health care. Remember when the House was dealing with, now it's the Senate, but back when the House was doing it, there were a lot of people that were coming out and saying, oh my gosh, this is Obamacare light. We shouldn't be supporting this. This is going to be devastating for getting rid of government health care and all this kind of stuff. But the reason why we say trust Trump in those circumstances, because my initial reaction is yes, I'm definitely not on board with Trump pushing what amounts to Obamacare light. But what he's seeing and what we need to trust Trump on is that he's going to be president for probably 8 years, 7.5 more years, and things are going at lightning speed. We need to get the needle moving in the right direction, and I believe that if it really is Obamacare light, that it's going to be something that Trump is going to revisit a year from now and put in another bill or demand another bill. It's not his job to put up another bill, but he's going to pressure Congress, pressure the House, pressure the Senate to come out with improvements on this Trump care that are going to move the needle further. And I think that's good. I think we need to just do it that way. And like we've said, we have fans that listen to us that are in the healthcare industry that say you cannot rip out Obamacare and just start over like that. Right. It has to be peeled away like an onion, as I will directly quote him. And so there you go.
So Luntz, one last thing Luntz had to talk about. He talks with Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose has a question to Luntz about those hardcore Trump supporters. You know, the hardcore ones. So I left Charlie Rose's question there on purpose because I want you to hear this is what mainstream media thinks about us, the Trump supporters, which is a huge movement, Tea Party movement to a Trump movement to a Freedom for America movement, Make America Great Again movement. Luntz, mainstream media, they don't get it. They don't know who we are, and at the end of the day, they don't know how to beat Trump. They just absolutely don't know how to beat the man.
I want him to keep doing it.
Are we talking about simply the hardcore, and I mean that in the best sense of the word, people who voted for him? Or are we talking just about them, but also those Democrats who came to vote for Donald Trump and put him over the top in 2016?
His base is significant. It is small but significant, and it isn't.
No, it's not
weakening.
Small. It's not small.
Is the base enough, and is it all of what elected him?
No, it's not enough. You cannot govern successfully at 38%. Your goal is to be at 50.1. This is the first president.
He says 38% approval rating. I thought his approval rating hit 50.
It's fake stats. It's just
his
totally
approval
fake.
Rating hit. He tweeted it.
And for those of you that you guys already know this, one of the big skills of Bill Mitchell is he knows how to break down these polls. And he pointed out this very poll has an extremely heavy Democrat, the polling sample is heavily Democratic. There's a lot more higher percentage of Democrats or liberals or left-leaning people who are voting in the polls that say that he only has a 38% approval rating. So the polls are just totally fake. Totally false and fake. It's fake news. Remember what Rush Limbaugh says, that polls are designed to shape public opinion, not reflect it. And that is so true.
Correct.
They want to shape public opinion by saying, look, you're out there in the wilderness. You need to get with the popular ideas. You need to get with the crowd, man. We all hate Trump. We all disagree and we don't approve of him. You need to get with the popular kid. But it's fake.
Right.
We all know it. We all know. Listen, think about it. Think about this. Everywhere you go, people like Trump. Everywhere. You go out in public and they try to keep it secret, but they're out there. And all the people that hate him are in hiding, and they are not the majority.
Dude, there was a guy, and I've been meaning to bring these things up when I see him and I forget about it. This weekend, I was out with the fam and we were shopping at the grocery store. And there was this guy, probably about 50, and he had a black T-shirt on with an like an AR-15 or a rifle pointing down his shirt, and it said "Black Guns Matter." And I told him, I said, "Dude, like the shirt, man." and it's all about Trump. We're talking about Trump.
Yeah,
I got in my truck from being at the hardware store. And I got in the truck, and it's kind of raining because we had that rainstorm came through here.
Yeah,
and this guy's walking at me, and I haven't left my parking spot yet. The truck's running. I'm getting ready, and this guy's walking, making a beeline, eye contact. I'm like, don't look.
Did he say Allahu Akbar?
Almost.
Okay.
And I started to pull away. I'm like, dude, I gotta get away from this guy. Finally, he got up to it. So I cracked the window. He's like, man, love the Trump sticker. Drive around, look at the back of my truck, man.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, cool. So I went around the back of his truck in the parking lot. And it's, dozens of stickers, jail her, all these things. But it's becoming more and more. I'm looking at the Gallup daily job approval poll. Okay. Whatever, man. I could care less about these polls. We don't repeat these polls unless there's something to really actually talk about. What is real right now? Frank Luntz, mainstream media, they cannot defeat Trump because of Americans. We get it, folks. Now, here's the other part of that soundbite where Luntz starts to dig in. Paul Ryan, I hope you're listening.
I know in modern history that accepts 40% as the center place. That's a challenge for him in getting tax reform. It's a challenge for health care. It's a challenge for infrastructure. That said, the people who voted for him are still behind him, and you can see that emotionally.
They are not behind the Republican Party, though. There was sharp criticism of what's happening in Congress. What are the implications for 2018?
We're going to be showing this tonight at 9 o'clock, and Paul Ryan better tune in because it is the most significant condemnation of the speaker since what I heard Trump voters saying about John Boehner about 2 years ago. They think Congress is holding up the agenda. They think Congress is part of the swamp, and they blame the Republicans as well as the Democrats.
That's what we're saying.
Did you hear that, though? That's very, very interesting tactics. He's at 38%, but he needs to be at 40. And why? Because Congress will view him as somebody who doesn't have the political clout to suggest anything to them. So when he says, this is what I think you should do for health care, they're going to say, dude, you're at 38%. I'm not touching you with a 10-meter cattle prod. And so that's why these numbers have actual actionable meaning, because of the representatives and the congressmen and senators are all looking at those numbers and using it as justification of whether or not to go along with Trump or not. And so that's why it's critical. It's critical
for Paul Ryan to get Gallup poll to get it down as low because he's bargaining chips.
Paul Ryan and all the Democrats, anybody that's against the Trump agenda, needs to manipulate the data to make sure that it appears as though the final number is under 40. So here's my prediction. My prediction is that the number will never hit 40. Never. It just won't happen. Doesn't matter what happens, no matter how many hundreds of thousands of people show up to rallies, how much you see on the internet that is pro-Trump. They're colluding either directly or indirectly with people like Mark Zuckerberg, who are going to ban and throttle accounts that are pro-Trump. Same thing with Jack Dorsey on Twitter. They're going to ban and throttle as many as possible to make it look like that the vast majority of people that are pro-Trump is actually a minority, and that the 38% is plausible. That way they can make the argument to the senators, look, I know, you know, I know, we all know that, or we all believe that it's fake. I know you believe it's fake, but I'm telling you, check Twitter. You don't see very much pro-Trump there, do you? Check it. You won't see much.
Look at the top of his tweets. Look at the first 20 comments on Trump's tweet. They're all hate.
They're all negative.
Look at the hate.
It's true. This 38% is true, and it might even be worse. So if you go along with him, it's your career. All right? It's your career.
Right. You're listening to Smyth Radio. If you want to be part of the conversation, part of Smyth Radio, join us 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday Eastern. And go to smithradio.info, take you directly to our Spreaker page where we broadcast live. And the message board, we've got all the usual suspects, if you will. We've got Kekistan Rose, Vanessa, Mary Lou, James Corwin, DJT made an appearance, and Dina, that's who. Dina made a comment earlier that polls have become total persuasion tools for the leftist agenda. And my comment was, yes, that's all the leftists have left. We have stripped the Democrats. Folks, rejoice in knowing that we have stripped the Democrats to the lowest amount of power that they have had since 1920. Since before the Great Depression, where they twisted the people's minds to make them believe that only the government could fix this stock market crash. Only the government can fix the wild, wild west. Only the government can. Do you need to trust the government? And then we had, 16 years of just in Roosevelt, FDR. I mean, it's
Franklin.
We've got insanity. And so, but listen, take comfort in knowing that the lies are going to keep coming because they have no power.
They have nothing else. It's amazing that they haven't changed tactics. Shocking.
And you hear Sanders all week. He's hammering home the same kill 'em all.
They double
tactics.
down every single news cycle. No matter what happens, the next breaking news comes out. They double down on the fact that just their ideology that's failed. They keep doubling down on it, doubling down on the lies, the narrative that everybody knows is laughably false, demonstrably false, completely made up for the most part, with a couple of little facts here and there to kind of, give credence to their lies. And the truth is that it's just not being bought by anybody. And they're kind of like, I have no other. I mean, the only thing I can think of to explain it is that they know that this is it. This is all they have left. They got to keep doubling down and hoping that they move the needle in their direction. And it turns out you base it on the GO6 that it's not working.
When have you ever heard or even thought that the Democrat Party would rescind Nancy, I've lost my ever-loving mind, Pelosi's card?
Her card.
Dude, they're talking about removing her from her leadership position.
Oh, yeah, there's actually some Democrats that have come out and said that
it's her fault. It's your fault. She's insane. She's senile.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's hilarious. I believe a whole bunch. I think every single news right-winger in the radio out there has been saying, please keep Nancy Pelosi around. Please keep her around.
Oh, Trump tweeted. Trump said this week. He said, no. I am telling you right now, Nancy Pelosi needs to stay where she's at. She's done us so well. I'm paraphrasing, but literally he said she's done so well for us at where she's at. Please do not remove her. And
That's
then
hilarious.
And then Eric on the 5, workout dude, muscle dude.
Bowling?
Yeah, Bowling.
Yep.
Eric Bowling said, he tweeted out a picture of him on the set. He said, I made a bumper sticker for Pelosi, keep Pelosi 2018.
Okay.
And somebody commented, I retweeted, somebody commented, that's so stupid. I'm like, no, it's not stupid. Keep her in power. Keep Dirty Harry in power. Keep these nutballed nut jobs where they're at because they're exposing the Democrats for who they are. And I know, Mary Lou, I know you've on the message board, I know you said, you worried about the deep state and worry about the corruption. That's always going to be there. I don't know if you can ever really, really, truly get rid of that. But like you said earlier, got to trust Trump. He's doing everything he possibly can. This should also make you feel better.
Well, before you go on, I actually found the tweet. Trump tweeted, I certainly hope the Democrats do not force Nancy Pelosi out. That would be very bad for the Republican Party. Please let Crying Chuck stay. So
Chuck you Schumer.
Yeah, so he wants Nancy Pelosi to stay. If she were to be ousted, that would be very bad for the Republican Party.
Yes.
So her presence is helping the Republicans flat out.
Can I scare you real quick for it?
Sure.
Do you realize that if the president and the vice president had passed away or incapacitated to death, she actually was in position to take over?
Yeah, she was third in line.
So Vanessa, Mary Lou, listen to me well. Silicon Valley, the left-wing haven, the Garden of Eden that is the left-wing haven out there in California, Silicon Valley has turned on edge.
I know, I heard about that. That's amazing. Why? Because they actually met the guy. It's like all the rappers and all that stuff. They go and see. Was it Jay-Z?
Yeah.
Was it? Who was the one that went and met him? I feel like it was Kim Kardashian's. Whoever.
No, Jay-Z and Kim were down with Obama and went to Cuba.
No, that's right. Who was it? That's slipping my mind. Whoever it was, it gave him the handshake and the chest bump and all that stuff.
Right.
And I'm telling you, once they meet Trump, they realize they've been lied to by the left. The left has been lying to them about Trump. Why do you think it is that the entire black community...
Kanye West.
Oh, Kanye West. When Kanye West met. So, but not just Kanye West. Like, I think there was 30 different rap songs that have had Trump in their lyrics.
Trump's a baller.
Over the past 30 some odd years, he's been in like 30 different song lyrics. And it's always in a somewhat positive light or very positive light. Almost always. Very, very seldom is there something that kind of alludes to the fact that he's a rich white guy. Very, very seldom. It's mostly like, I want to be like Trump. I want to have the kind of money Trump has.
This by the Huffington Post, which is a compost of it's a complete lie of a website. Their title is 67 times rappers dropped Donald Trump's name.
Okay. So 67 different times. I was thinking 30.
And then there's another 67. One that says 20 times and then 38 times. The whole point though.
Oh, they actually list them.
Right.
There was if you go onto YouTube has a compilation of all the songs and they'll play them. Not the whole song, just the part where they mention Trump back to back to back to back.
4 minutes and 47 seconds.
Probably.
And then there's another one that's a minute.
Totally banned.
But yeah, I mean,
we'll be banned from YouTube for copyright infringement.
Dude, it's different. If you got in front of Obama, I mean, I've said so many things about Obama, and it's always true. I don't name call, I don't lie about him. I don't say.
No, we'll say the truth.
Yeah. And even if my daughters were to say something, I'll say, whoa. Okay, you just called Obama stupid. What do you mean by that? You've got to elaborate on that. Just calling somebody stupid doesn't make it so. Let's expound on that.
It's like my brother-in-law. He'll question you. Like,
right.
What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? Like, why would you say that? Where'd you come up with that opinion?
Right, exactly. However, if I was in front of Obama and met him, I would be very respectful, but I promise you, I would not be impressed. Other than the fact he was able to get away with what he got away with, it's not impressive, but I just wouldn't have that.
For him to use the IRS as a weapon against the Tea Party and other conservative groups and to not be impeached for that is at the very minimum racist.
Right.
At the very minimum. And probably, I mean, it's just amazing. What he did with the IRS is 100 times worse than anything Nixon did.
Oh, Nixon was rolling over in his grave. Said, I could do all that? I know Nixon was a Republican, but he was a deep, deep, dark state establishment.
He definitely thought. Well, I think what sums up Nixon is in he did an interview long after he was out of the presidency, and in this interview, it was like the last interview he ever did, a last big interview. He said that he believes that when the president does something, it's legal no matter what because it's the president. Pretty much implying that the president is totally above the law. When in reality, anytime you do a crime or misdemeanor, you can be impeached by the Congress. So he obviously had the wrong idea, which is why he ended up getting impeached. Obama should have been impeached because he did a lot of illegal things, a lot of things that were what I would consider crimes against the American people. Certainly gross abuses
of power, negligence.
Of the Fourth Amendment, for
Right.
sure.
Okay, so tech giant Silicon Valley turning coat, CEO of OpenGov, Zachary Bookman, Jenny Remy, CEO of IBM, Eric Schmidt, former CEO, chairman, and current chairman, Alphabet Inc., Peter Thiel, CEO of PayPal and other things as well, Tim Cook of Apple Incorporated. I've got right. Where is that damn thing? There it is. Soundbite 13. Okay. Here's soundbite 13. They'll speak, and then I put a second or two pause, a silence between each one of them talking, so that you know it's a different person. But that is them in order.
I'm really excited and honored to be a part of today's conversation, and I applaud the work that Jared and so many others here are leading. It's clear to me that a lot of the thinking being applied is exactly what's been needed for a long time.
I think that's right. Thank you very much.
That was Trump.
I've had the pleasure of being in a number and the honor of being in a number of these sessions. And I think it's worth noting that the efforts around workforce development, around cybersecurity, around modernization, while they're difficult, in this short time, there has been progress already made. And so I would really say on behalf of both Ivanka and Jared and Chris and Reed, I can already see, and actions have been taken. I actually can see the change happening already.
The new CEO for IBM.
Mr. President, thanks to Jared and Ivanka for sort of driving this so hard. I'm absolutely convinced that during your administration, there's going to be a huge explosion in new opportunities because of the platforms that are getting built in our industry. It's going to happen soon during your leadership.
Very honored to be here today. I think that the tech industry is an industry that is doing well in America, and we need to sort of make it do even better. I think your administration's off to a terrific start in doing these things.
That was PayPal CEO.
The U.S. should have the most modern government in the world, and today it doesn't. And it's great to see the effort that Jared is putting in.
That was
clearly
Tim Cook.
Apple. Well, this is clearly we're coerced by Trump. We're threatened to say those things about him, just like they always say that they do, because everybody knows that Trump is a completely incompetent boob, and that you certainly wouldn't say all those nice things about him. So for them to come out and say that in front of him is clearly they were under severe duress.
Oh, they were guns pointed at heads.
And they may have been tortured prior to.
Oh, yeah, to actually weeks in advance for a proper and thorough brainwashing. I mean, come on. Vanessa just said it right. It was a love fest. You get in front of Trump. Once you get in front of the man, I mean, people are attracted to leaders.
He's so evil like that. He's so evil like that. He's like the devil himself.
He's got the laser tracker beam and just sucks you in.
There's something wrong when somebody can do that.
Turn away from the light. Look away from the light.
Away from the light.
Good times, man. Good times. Something that I heard this week, and I didn't come up with this. Another talk show host brought it up and talked about it for a second. But I just kind of want to lead into some of the fake news and what's really going on out there. Carrie, you and I both worked on aircraft.
Okay.
And I had never, it wasn't anything that would have, if it would have come up, I would have known about it. I had never heard about this before, about aircraft. Apparently, at 118 degree temperature weather outside, when the temperature reaches 118 degrees, aircraft can't fly, according to CNN.
Well, okay, so
Washington Post.
There is some truth to all of this. Whenever you test an aircraft, or some of the specifications on the aircraft as tested are based on a specific set of
parameters,
conditions.
Yeah.
So, for instance, they would say zero sea level. At sea level, at a specific temperature. I think it's 0 degrees Celsius at 0. And you're like, wait a minute, we're nowhere near sea level. And it's like 100 degrees out here. What are you talking about? 0 degrees Celsius at 0. Well, then they have to look at all these different graphs. And the reason all those parameters are so important is because all those things affect the density of the air and the amount of lift you're going to get over the air wing and all this kind of stuff. So when I first heard it, I said, okay, this all makes sense. And there's also large safety factors to it. So when they say that it can't fly over 118 degrees.
Or they're grounded until the temperature comes down
to below 118 degrees. And by the way, that's only that one specific aircraft. So the big lie you heard this week was that they're closing down all these airports all across the West because as soon as you get to 118, 119, 120 degrees, that all of it's shut down and nothing can fly. No, every aircraft is rated differently. And these little aircraft that are in question just happen to be rated at no more than 118 degrees. Does that mean that they wouldn't be able to fly? No, because there's that room for error in engineering. Like, I'll give you an example. If the bridge is expected to hold up 20 tons, then they'll build it for 60 tons or maybe 100 tons, right? There's that room for error. That way, and they would put signs on it, no more than 20 tons. But the engineers all know the dirty little secret that you could put as much as 60 or 100 tons on it. But they don't want you to know that because because there could be rust or something like that. They don't want to take the chance.
Well, just like a crane, overhead cranes at work, they'll rate them for 10 tons. Technically, they're rated for 3 times the amount that's on the crane.
They're engineered for that. They're not rated for that.
Sorry, they're rated for 10, engineered for 3 times.
Exactly, and that's done on purpose because there's going to be some room for error. Like, for instance, maybe somebody's like, hey, this thing only weighs 10 tons. But they don't know that it actually weighs double that.
Right.
Could weigh 20 tons.
Right.
So that's an example of like human error. But anyway, so these aircraft are rated for these different temperatures and they're tested for all these different conditions and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean,
well, Kekistan Rose made a comment. Then what about the fighter jets in Iraq and the heat?
Well, that's a different aircraft.
Well, not only that, but I responded, especially because I worked on the F-16s. The F-16, if it had no engine, it lost the one engine, and it lost power, it would fall straight to the ground like a lawn dart. It has no.
It has the aerodynamics of a rock.
Yes, it just has extreme power and extreme speed. The aircraft in question is the long, skinny DC. It's the Eagle, the American Eagle, the silver, long, skinny, small,
old
tiny
school one,
right? Real old school. Wing. And the wings are so tiny, and they're all the way in the back. It's just really little. That aircraft is the only one in question right now because 747, 737, 757, you got the A380, all the Airbuses, all of them. They're all flying worldwide. Mm-hmm. And this was brought up in the news media because Trump pulled out of the Paris Accord Agreement and climate global change. So we need to make this an issue of the day.
Yeah, Rush brought that up this week that he finds it fascinating that the news is so coincidentally timed. And also, if you go back a year ago, those same aircraft were down for the same reason, but they didn't make the news reports. So Rush points out,
you can't say that about Obama. Obama in power.
Well, because he hadn't pulled out of the Paris Accords. Right. So
it didn't ruin the agenda.
Yeah, that these aircraft were down would not be in the news if Trump stayed with the Paris Accords.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So, but one thing I want everybody to know out there with our expertise in aerospace engineering and all this kind of stuff is that this is not fake news that these planes were down. They were down, and the reason why they were down is also not fake. They really do have those kind of parameters, and limits and all that kind of stuff. But here's where the fake news is. They tried to trick you into thinking that this is unprecedented. This happens every year, every time when Phoenix gets above. Yuma, Arizona, I was there for 4 years, okay? 4 years. Yuma, Arizona's on the border of Arizona and
Mexico
hell. And hell. It's right on the border of hell.
Border of Mexico and hell.
And if you look at, have you ever seen those nationwide maps with the infrared on them or the different colors where it would show the different temperatures throughout the U.S. for that day? And if you notice, like, there's some red patches where it's up in the 90s and 100s. It would get purple when you're in the hundreds. Well, every single day, there was this one little dark purple or brown patch, real tiny, right in the bottom corner of Arizona. And that's Yuma, Arizona. So it was always the very, very, very hottest in Yuma, Arizona. Our planes flew around all day. All the planes that were there flew around. It was fine. We would have 3 months straight every single summer where the temperature would get to exactly 119 degrees at the hottest during the day. Right. Every day for months on end. We never had the most boring job on earth is a weatherman in Yuma, Arizona. There is nothing that changes other than over the course of the seasons. And you'll get different highs, but it doesn't change from day to day. It's not like Cincinnati, where today it was 70. Well, yesterday it was 82, and tomorrow it'll be 95, and we're going to get rain, and there's a storm coming. None of that happens in Yuma, Arizona. We get 119 highs every single year for months on end.
And the American Eagle needs to stay on the ground until it cools down.
It just doesn't come to Yuma.
They don't go to Yuma.
No.
It was an accident. He said, man, I got an emergency landing.
Right. And then they got there and they realized that
you can't get off the ground.
Yeah. They would fly just fine. It's just a little bit like you wouldn't want to load it down. You wouldn't want to fill it up.
Right. They had
the Doolittle Raiders, all right? Those B-25s from the Doolittle Raid were not able to fly off an aircraft carrier or a runway as short as the aircraft carrier they flew off of. So they made some changes, and then they honestly they still weren't able to make it. But they drove the boat into a headwind as fast as they could, so that they got as much headwind as possible, and they just went for it. They did it.
Just do it.
Got it. It was a suicide mission. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
on fake news, kind of wrapping it up real quick, Micah and Scarborough.
Mika.
I guess they're an item now. We called it out a couple of years ago. You called it out.
Yeah, forever.
So they've left their spouses. Now they're together. Apparently, Mika went off the rails, and Scarborough was having none of it. She attempted to associate Donald Trump with some study she saw.
Okay.
To the leader of North Korea.
Okay.
And Scarborough clearly talked over her. So
they don't get along. They need to not. Are they married? I know they were
engaged.
He was married to somebody else when they first got together.
A couple months ago they got engaged.
Yeah, so he had to get a divorce because of Mika. And then let me tell you something. Their chemistry is god awful.
Yeah.
They are so bad. You could tell they freaking hate each other. Or I shouldn't say that about Mika. Joe cannot stand her, and there is no doubt about that. Anyway.
And this clearly showed it. So this a 20-second clip. This is Mika at the beginning, referring to Trump as a dictator now, the dictator of North Korea, and then Chris Matthews goes off the rail. It's like they've been given, MSNBC has been given the script to script the Trump.
It does feel like a developing dictatorship. Anyhow.
She said it does feel like a developing dictatorship.
It does feel like a developing dictatorship. Anyhow.
Uday and Kusa. She did that, and he talked over her. That's why it's so short. I had to get it. But she tried to continue this rant of Trump, North Korea, same thing, and a developing dictatorship in America. Okay, one more time, and then it'll go right to Chris.
It does feel like a developing dictatorship. Anyhow.
Uday and Qusay working for Saddam Hussein. You couldn't go to a restaurant and have eye contact with one of those guys without getting killed. These people are really powerful. Imagine getting into a fight in the office with Jared or Ivanka. They have enormous power, and they're always going to be there.
This is what I worry about for other people in the White House. Ivanka Trump has been described as her father's eyes and ears on the ground. That's a little scary if you're just a regular White House staffer.
What is this?
He referred to Jared and as Hussein Qusay,
Houday and Kuday or whatever. I don't even know.
Saddam Hussein's sons.
And he pointed out that you couldn't look at those guys in a restaurant in the eye without getting killed.
They would kill you.
What in the Sam hell is he talking about? Does he think I met Ivanka?
We both did. Yes.
We met Ivanka. We looked at her in the eye. She's not going to have us killed. And Trump would never go along with that if she did. I think if she came in crying to him that the only way she's going to stop crying is if he has somebody murdered, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yes.
She'd probably tell her to wipe her tears away and shut up.
It's so MSNBC full-blown tard. Full-blown.
They went full retard on that.
They're not done yet. They had somebody on, somebody make a comment, a person, they like bring somebody on as an expert.
He wasted the country's collective time speculating over whether these tapes existed or not. It's a sad day when you cannot depend on the president's.
Okay, we're talking about Trump coming out this week and saying there wasn't no Comey tapes, there wasn't nothing
about that.
Well, we only have 10 minutes in the show. But the point is that
it's only a minute.
Okay, is that this woman is brought on and they're everybody's wigging out that Trump said, "Nah, man, Trump trolled all of them, trolled Comey and got Comey to do what Comey did, master trollster, Trump."
He wasted the country's collective time speculating over whether these tapes existed or not. It's a sad day when you cannot depend on the president's word. And my advice would just be to Republicans who do cozy up to him. It's just like hugging a suicide bomber. He blows you up in the process with him.
It's like hugging us. That's a little strong, Elise.
Yeah, look at if you go out on a limb, if you're a Republican who went out on a limb and defended Donald Trump over saying, well, he's got tapes that are going to back up his point of view, you just got blown up too.
I don't even.
You done got blowed up. Come on, Kerry. You supported him. These tapes, he lied. You got blowed up too. All y'all.
All right, so here's the thing. She tried to say, how can we trust what he says when he's saying these things on Twitter that aren't true? What he said was, there was nothing that you could say is not factual or untrue or false or a lie in that tweet whatsoever. He said, Comey better hope that there's no tapes of of our conversation.
Yes.
What part of that is false? He didn't say, Comey better hope that I don't release tapes. He said he better hope there aren't any.
Yeah, Comey better hope that the tapes that I've got, that I recorded our conversations, better hope those don't get in the wrong hands.
Yeah, that's not what he said, because if he did say that and we found out that tapes don't exist, that would be a lie. That's a lie. You guys need to figure out, be able to distinguish between a lie and an interesting tweet. I mean, he better hope there's no tapes. It sounds to me like that tweet right there does not indicate whether Trump knows there's tweets. Tapes.
Right. And when he even said it in the interview, when he talked with Kellyanne Conway, he even said, well, with the Obama administration, the CIA, the FBI, everybody, all the three-letter intelligence guys, you have no idea. I don't know.
And I'll read his tweet right here. This is the whole tweet. I'm looking at the actual tweet. James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. That does not even indicate whether or not Trump even knew whether there were tapes or not. So what the hell are they talking about? They are literally... I love the way Trump somehow, when he tweets something, that they turn it into a bunch of extra stuff that he never said. That they can somehow construe and extrapolate facts. They literally thought they heard Trump say something that he didn't say. They thought he said that there are tapes.
Right.
He never said that. No. And he never even said that he knew that there were tapes or that there could be tapes.
Right.
Not at all. There could actually not be tapes. And he said the same thing. He better hope that there's not tapes. I mean, I could say that.
What more do you right?
I could have literally said, I could have tweeted out, Comey better hope there's not tapes of his conversations with Trump in the office, in the Oval Office. And what I would say would have just as much weight to it is, obviously Trump would have more weight, but I'm just saying that the thought itself, it has equal weight. But it's not saying something that it's not saying. And they're saying that Trump is saying that there are tapes. No, not at all.
So what is your take on her comparing Trump to a suicide bomber? Dude, hashtag CNN is ISIS.
Yes, they are obsessed with
MSNBC are terrorists.
They have a man crush or a organization crush on ISIS.
Like they wish they could be doing what ISIS is doing.
Absolutely. They are so jealous of ISIS. So jealous, flat out.
So Susan Rice and possibly who met on the tarmac with Bill Clinton? Lynch. Loretta Lynch coming up this week. Going to be deposed or imposed or somebody's going to talk to her. We'd like to see an investigation on that. Susan Rice, Tom Cotton, Representative Tom Cotton, talking with Hugh Hewitt about Susan Rice.
Susan Rice is the typhoid Mary of the Obama administration foreign policy.
Susan Rice is the typhoid Mary of the Obama foreign policy.
Oh, wow.
Susan Rice is the typhoid Mary of the Obama administration foreign policy.
Interesting. So you think they're going to get her up on stand and just sing like a canary, or what do you think?
You never know. I don't know. You know, somebody's going to get immunity. Somebody's going to get
hopefully she gets impunity. I think that she should get immunity so she could take the whole damn thing down.
Bring it down. That
way we can avoid a civil war, because that's really where this is going.
Oh, and then something else this week that a friend of mine I was talking to at church this morning, he said, what's the show going to be about tonight? I said, this, and this, and I'm going to bring up the Trump VA reform bill that he signed. He said, what? I said, yes, it was huge. He signed the VA reform bill. He said, I didn't hear nothing about that all week.
The news is not going to come out with it, that's for sure.
Trump has signed into law the VA reform bill that protects whistleblowers and installs an oversight committee type thing, reducing time, reducing fraud, waste, and abuse, trimming it down, slimming it down. He had a guy that there while he was speaking that had both his legs amputated, military guy, and the guy had to wait 57 days for one of his prosthetics to be repaired.
Oh, geez, that's ridiculous.
And Trump stops talking and says, "You know what, man? You know what, Sergeant Jim? I ain't shaking your hand yet." Dude jumps up out of the front row, walks to Trump. Trump dips down from the stand, shakes his hand, comes back to my man. He gets up faster than I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I mean,
Kerry Kellerman did an interview with a guy. I can't remember if he's a veteran or not. I'm really sorry if he is, but he worked at a VA hospital as a maintenance guy. Did all these maintenance, and I think it was a Texas VA hospital. And they had no filtration on their water, and they had a problem with the pipes, and mud was getting into everything. They had mud and sludge and junk and anything that was hooked up to a water pipe. They would take the shower heads off and it would be full of mud. The same water that would go into ice makers. So they had ice that had like particulates of mud and junk and whatever in it, and he tried to blow the whistle, and they were all they were trying to destroy him because he was trying to speak out against it. And it just goes to show you right there. That was an interview done by Kerry Kellerman. If you want to go check that out on YouTube, it was eye opening, big time.
Lastly, real quick, Bernie Sanders and his wife Jane Sanders have lawyered up. From 2004 to 2011, Jane Sanders was president of a small community college out in Burlington, Vermont, where Bernie Sanders was a mayor at one point in time. The tiny little college, she pushed for the college to buy 32 acres of lakefront property worth $10 million. She they're saying the claim that she might have lied to the bank about how many students, how many enrollees that they have to get the loan. Bernie Sanders may have helped and leaned on the bank to make the loan. Anyways, they've lawyered up. The FBI is involved. They are currently under full-blown investigation. Bernie Sanders, you are the crook that you are.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked because all these good Democrats, good-hearted people like your Cassandra Fairbanks, really were all in on Bernie Sanders and thought that he was the good guy against Hillary Clinton.
Now, if this is true, yeah, he's a crook. I'm calling him a crook now.
Nah, he's a crook. He got paid off with a Lamborghini or something.
Yep.
He got paid a $600,000 mansion.
A communist can always be bought and paid for.
The whole thing.
There's no soul. There's no moral guidance. There's no soul. It's just get what you can while you can. We'll see what happens. But Bernie Sanders said, "Oh, it's all because I ran for president. That's why they're coming after me."
Yeah, they're coming after him with Lamborghinis and mansions. Flat out. Kidding me?
Yet they're going after Trump with a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt.
Yep.
Johnny Depp, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bastard.
We should.
I think the FBI is going to be, the CIA is going to be looking at that little punk.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Awesome.
Good day in America once again. We are winning this war against all the evil and the hate and the vitriol. Stay strong. Share Smyth Radio with all your friends and family.
Go to Patreon. Make sure you donate.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.